Welcome everyone to Comics from the Multiverse, episode 442. I am Peter, and someone who's loyal enough to turn up for more than 1 week is Matt.
Loyal? Maybe. Deluded? Definitely.
Yes, okay, unhinged may have been a better word. I don't know, but we're here. It's episode 442. It's a DC Comics podcast. We get together, we talk about the week's books that we read from DC. Coming up on this week's show, we have Action Comics 1082, we have Nightwing 112, Green Lantern Fractured Spectrum issue 1 special, we have The New Gods issue 2, Batman Superman World's Finest 35, Batman and Robin Year 1 issue 4, The Question All Along the Watchtower issue 3, Jenny Sparks 6, and The Nice House by the Sea issue 5. Plus, for Patreon, I'm doing Batman and the Outsiders number 21. I think it's number 21 anyway. I'll double check that when I actually talk about it. But I think it's number 21.
Fair enough.
It was the next one. I know it's the right issue I read. It's just knowing what the numbers are can escape me. So yes, welcome to the show. We also have some news to talk about. Honestly, I'm genuinely shocked we didn't get solicits this week. I guess the month started in such a weird day that we're going to be on week's 4 books by the time we get solicits, or maybe they're holding. Is there an event in the next week or this weekend that maybe they held them back for?
I don't think so.
I wouldn't have thought so either in January, but you never know. There's some Comic-Con somewhere around the US pretty much every month of the year. So
Usually WonderCon was in March, but there's usually nothing in January. So.
Yeah, it's WonderCon in March. It's the main Comic-Con in, June, July, and then New York's in November, October. So it tends to be those big ones that get some news. And WonderCon, I wouldn't say normally has stuff. It just but if it happens to line up with when they want to do announcements, they'll use it. Because Rebirth was all announced at WonderCon, but it's not something they go out their way to do stuff for each year. But anyway, we do have some news to talk about. Some early stuff, teasing the solicits, some ideas of what we're going to be doing in the summer, and Free Comic Book Day and all that stuff. But yeah, how was your week, Matt?
Coming back from breaks and whatnot, working in education, they tend to be pretty tough. So it's pretty stressful. Didn't do much, but read some comics. I haven't watched a movie in a minute, so failing on that one. But yeah, so that pretty much, I don't say non-existent, but just kind of sitting around, not doing much. Also bracing for the worst because of what's coming next week.
Just sitting around feeling empty, devoid of feeling, yes, existential dread. Yeah, my movie watching's been a bit late this week. For the most part, I snuck in 1 or 2 things, but I'm doing a thing with Connor. For Patreon, where we just sort of talk about what movies we've been watching for the past month, so that's something to grab on there. We're recording the first one of those this weekend. Luckily though, I've watched enough stuff from earlier in the last 4 weeks that I got plenty to talk about. But no, I've been I feel like I've been playing catch up all week. I feel like I've not been ahead of the curve. A lot of TV stuff to record. Severance is back. Squid Game season 2 I'm not quite done with yet, so that's still ongoing. And then on top of all that, just Patreon shows and stuff to do. So it's been a kind of a busy week.
So someone that really enjoyed the Penguin show. Can I just jump in without being fresh on Batman?
Without being fresh, yeah.
Yeah. So I've only seen Batman once in theaters. So. Would it be better to watch the Batman and then Penguin, or just jump right into Penguin?
Funnily enough, the reason why I would recommend that you maybe watch the movie again is actually less to do with Penguin as a character and more with there's one particular thing from the movie that kind of comes up. Okay. And you won't have trouble following it, but I think it's quite satisfying, how they expanded on one thread. That was hinted at in the movie. But I don't think you need to. If you want to just jump into it, you can just jump into it.
Because I feel like I want to, and then I'm like, I should refresh. Maybe I don't need to. But if it wasn't damn near 3 hours, right, then, I'd have much more time to get it under.
Well, just treat it as a two-parter then. Just watch.
Yeah, that's break it up into 3 1-hour episodes.
Yeah, whatever. If that's what it takes to get through it, then do it. I mean, you're gonna be mad you watched it because it's a good movie.
No, I know. It's one of those things. I haven't seen it since the theater. It's one of the ones that I feel like there's certain movies that I want to keep the theater experience alive. You know, like Top Gun Maverick was like that. I haven't watched it since we're in the theater.
Yeah, it was also overrated, so there's no reason to watch it at home again.
Well, I enjoyed it at the theater. It's called Top Gun again.
I mean, it was better than the original Top Gun. I'll give it that, but I don't know why everyone likes that first Top Gun movie. I think it's like when I finally watched that, I'm like, "Wait, is this it? Is this why people like? What is this? This is like Days of Thunder is better than Top Gun." I've said that before. I'll say it again.
We have. The only thing that Days of Thunder has over Top Gun is Michael Rooker.
Michael Rooker counts for a lot. Yes, don't you sully that man's name. I was
bored. I'll take Tom Skerritt in Flight School and all that other stuff. Goose. Talk to me, Goose, over anything in Days of Thunder. I was bored.
Tom Skerritt died in the Nostromo and he was never seen again, and that is what we're sticking to.
Oh, I love it.
Oh dear. So yeah, just been a busy, hectic week for TV stuff, and recording McConnor again a couple times a week is definitely peppered up. That said, though, it's also been a crazy couple of weeks because Tim's evacuated his house, and so I'm not doing stuff with him right now, but I'm sure that'll be spinning back up whenever he's back.
So he's getting a break from Pete. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, but he's also getting a break from his house, which doesn't have power or water right now.
I know. I'm trying to spin it better. Right.
I'm saying that I'm the least of his worries. Is what I'm trying to say.
That's the first of many times. Yeah, I'm also trying to go see the Wolfman. Right. I love werewolf stuff, and there's the buzz around it right now. Not good.
Yeah, which is sad.
Say ungood. Yeah, because it's Lee Winnell, and he has not let me down yet.
Yeah, so. I really liked his Invisible Man, so it's a shame that this isn't a home run. But I mean, I think me and Tim might have seen that and done it for the show as it was in theaters. But obviously, because of the whole fire thing, that's probably just wait until April or something now. But
yeah, I've been talking to Tim on Blue Sky about it, and just we both want to go see it, but we're also like, we could wait to streaming. But I haven't been to the movies since I went to Nosferatu. It wasn't that long ago, but it felt like a minute. So I have that hankering.
Yeah. So yeah. Speaking, I mean, I guess this is something we probably could have talked about last week or the week before, but Batman Part 2 got delayed to 2027 or something stupid like that.
Yeah.
Which is
it just keeps.
I'm going to be 38 when that movie comes out. That is terrifying. Stop delaying things for so long.
I don't want to talk about my age, so.
Wait, you're going to be. I was going to say 1938 there. That's a wrong century. 2030.
Might as well be. Superman will be 100 in 2038.
That's true. That's true.
That's
in the public domain. Yeah. Well, things are getting weird.
Oh, I can't wait. We're 15 years, not quite 13 years from a Superman horror movie, probably made by David Newton Howard.
That is very true, but there's lots of things they can't use right away. Right. So they have to be careful. They can't say Daily Planet. They can't use Kryptonite. There's a lot of things they can't do. Yeah. Gotta be very careful. Someone's going to have to make a cheat sheet. Okay, this is all the parts of Superman you can actually use right now that's public domain, and then all these other things are not yet.
It's just Snyder's Superman. We're just crushing buildings because he can't jump over them in single bound.
That's what happens. Zack Snyder made the public domain Superman before it was public domain.
Hey, I'm not good at Photoshop or anything, guys, so make us a Zack Snyder's public domain Superman poster, please.
Oh dear.
Dude, real quick, I know it's not a movie show, but I know how much David Lynch.
Oh yeah.
One of your guys. So I don't know if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, that. I don't know if a celebrity names, with the article headline of they've died has hit me quite as potently as seeing David Lynch has died, because I'm like, oh, and this is not to be cruel to anyone else who's passed away, but I'm like, oh, I care about him. Oh no, this one hurts. So yeah, so you know, the next day or two was just people sharing quotes and gifs and things that he said, and the man was full of weird quotes that were very useful to share.
I had a complex relationship with his art, but I feel like David Lynch was such an interesting person. Like, he's just very endearing, and you know, so even I felt that loss. And I can't say like while his movies didn't resonate with me, I don't forget them. I know I've seen them. You know,
he was truly unique. He was doing stuff like, I think the best thing I read in the last few days about his legacy is the fact that we will say the thing, and you've heard me say it, and I'm sure you've even said it, is you'll describe something as Lynchian, and that's something that anyone who knows anything about movies knows what that means, and there's not really a good other word to describe what we're talking about. You can get close, you can say, oh, it's weird and ethereal, or it's doing this or that, but his name became the word to describe what that certain feeling was.
Surreal, dreamlike, like edging on nightmare style iconography is like Lynchian. Like, coming into things at work sometimes is very Lynchian, you know. So yeah, a big loss there. I heard I want to say it was a couple weeks ago, he was going through cancer treatments and whatnot, and then getting that news that he had passed, I was like, oh man. So then I tried to track down some of his movies that I haven't seen, and of course they're kind of hard to come by. Stuff like Wild at Heart, and I'm trying to think what else. That might be the one that's been escaping me. I've seen most of his others.
A lot of them are being released by Criterion, either already or will be, so that's a way to get a lot of them. I mean, not all of them are weird though. Like, Elephant Man's a pretty straightforward story.
Yeah, I've seen Elephant Man.
Yeah.
I've seen Eraserhead. I saw that in film school. I haven't seen his one about the guy on the what's it called, The Street Story.
Yeah,
that's pretty straightforward.
That's probably my least favorite of his, to be honest. Because it doesn't even feel like a David Lynch movie. But I get it was like a little passion project, and that's cool. But
yeah,
didn't quite do much for me.
After he had me watch Blue Velvet, I've been trying. I'll get around to Wild at Heart. It's got Nick Cage, Laura Dern. You know, people I like. I can give it a shot, and it's so hard to come by. So that's one been high on my list for a minute.
Yeah, that's actually probably my second least favorite David Lynch movie, if I'm honest.
So fun.
Yeah,
Which means I might like it a lot.
No, it's still pretty weird. I just didn't click with me the same way that Mulholland Drive or Lost Highway or of course Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me is another one. But that's one that's in the context of you have to watch Twin Peaks to really get the full brunt of it. It's
part of a whole, yeah. Have you seen Inland Empire?
I have. It's been a long ass time.
Yeah.
Now, admittedly, I'm not sure if I could have told you what it was about right after I watched it, but I certainly couldn't tell you right now.
Right. But yeah, that was one that came up to you that I haven't seen. It's also got Laura Dern.
I'm thankful that, because as much as you love Jurassic Park, it probably pains you to know that Laura Dern's actually probably most associated with the works of David Lynch.
Well, because she's what is she in at the beginning of? Is it Blue Velvet?
I don't know if she's in Blue Velvet, but I don't remember. But she's in Wild at Heart. She's in Twin Peaks season 3, which was what I was about to say. Is that it's just kind of nice that he got to do that. Like, that was his last big thing. That, and it is very much a magnum opus of like, here, this is the most Lynch thing ever for 18 episodes. So that even feels like more of a gift than it did before. Now that it was the last thing he got to really make. Yeah. Oh, she is in Blue Velvet. No, she is. Yeah, she is. She's like the regular teen love interest.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah. So his legacy will live on. And again, as I said, complex relationship with this stuff. I would never say that I love it, but I respect it more than anything. And that's a good place to be for a filmmaker, I think.
Yeah. No. That was the big thing of the week. For sure. So let's get into stuff. Starting off with the Kindle ranking, formerly known as the Comicsology Top 10. So, Matt, do you have a guess for what number 1 is?
Yeah, so there was a new Ultimate book that stars a certain character that tends to sell. So I'm going to guess Ultimate Wolverine number 1.
You're going with Wolverine. I really thought when you said the character who tends to sell, I thought you were going with Ultimate. I can't think of a funny Marvel character to end my joke. Damn it. All the obscure Marvel characters have left my brain.
There's a lot of them.
Jeff the Shark. There you go. I like Jeff the Shark. Which, by the way, all the normies are getting into Jeff the Shark because he's in the video game that's popular just now, and they're all saying, "Oh, there's this shark that's really." I'm like, we've been talking about Jeff the Shark for like 5 years, okay? That's
People were annoyed about Jeff the Shark before people realized how cool Jeff the Shark was. All right, like yeah.
I was there at the beginning of Jeff the Shark, damn it. Anyway.
You think Jeff the Shark's your ally?
I was not
there when
by
he was
him. Anyway, yeah, number 1 is Ultimate Wolverine. That was correct. By Christopher Condon. I mean Condon, but I see Condon. I want to read Condom every time. Number what?
That's an inside your head joke, not an outside for people to hear joke.
Yes, apologies to Christopher Rubber, okay?
There you go.
So number 2 is Storm. Number 3 is New Gods. So that did very well. That did really well last month. I was surprised, because I think that was number 1 last month, and I was very surprised that a New Gods book. Well, yeah, but that's the thing. It's not even like his detective was selling that well.
No. I'm saying I'm like proud of Ram V. I was like, let's go.
So maybe he has built up some name cred by this point, that his name's selling the book as much as anything else. Number 4 is Exceptional X-Men. Number 5 is G.I. Joe. Number 6 is Titans. So the second most selling DC book's the one we didn't read. That's funny. Yep. But hey.
Plenty to get caught up though. So yeah. We'll see.
Number 7 is Immortal Thor. Number 8 is Green Lantern Fractured Spectrum. Number 9 is Batman and Robin Year 1, and then number 10 is Laura Kinney Wolverine. So at least they're calling her by her correct name. I appreciate that. If nothing else.
You know what I always love about DC, right? Is like we can have talks about Green Lanterns and Flashes, and we'll always, 9 times out of 10, specify which one we're talking about.
Sure.
Marvel people tend to have a problem with that, where like only one character can hold that title, and I just think that's one of the unique differences between Marvel and DC. And yeah, I like that there's multiple Flashes, and Green Lanterns and Hawks and you name it. So
just missing the top 10's World's Finest, and then the Question Watchtower book and Jenny Sparks are 11, 12, and 13 respectively. Nightwing bizarrely is all the way down at 16, and then Action Comics is at 17. So a couple of books that I'd expect to be higher up, slipping down the row a bit. I mean, admittedly, the books that are right above them are Avengers Assemble and Amazing Spider-Man, so it could just be a very competitive week, if nothing else. But that said, though, Jenny Sparks outselling Nightwing in Action is a little surprising.
Oh no, that still has that prestige. It's a limited series, people jumping on type stuff. I feel like there's ebbs and flows with Action and Nightwing.
Yeah. It's just a shame because I'm really enjoying this Nightwing run, and even if it isn't quite the Taylor run, like I still think it's holding up really well.
Yeah.
And it'd be a shame for it to slip too much, but there's a lot of competition, so I guess that's one of the potential pitfalls. So we do have news to talk about. We have a reasonable bit of comics news. Obviously, I expect solicits next week now. I really honestly thought we were getting them this week, but instead we just get a few stories lean into them.
So did I, because I had plans for a date night tonight, and my wife asked, how long are you going to be? I was like, we might have solicits. It might be a minute. And then there was no solicits. And I was like, oh, okay. Plan for that next weekend. I'll clear my schedule for next Saturday.
Still a long list of books, though, so I wouldn't be telling her you're going to be too quick.
No, but still, adding solicits adds at least 45 to an hour.
That's true. Well, I don't know. I might talk about this next thing for about 25 minutes. Dan, I have a good part of this news and a bad part of this news for you. Yeah. Our main headline. The good thing for you is that there's going to be another Superman ongoing book starting in the summer. The bad news for you, and for all of us, is that Dan Slott's coming to DC.
But there also though, who's doing the art?
I mean, it's Albuquerque. I'm not, obviously no one's mad about that. And look, I'm cracking jokes. I don't hate Dan Slott, but I tried like several parts of his Spider-Man run and always just kind of stopped bothering after a few issues. So I'm not excited by Dan Slott doing a Superman book.
I don't think I've ever read anything by Dan Slott.
Okay.
So I'm gonna be open to it. However, reading because this news came up, I mean, I couldn't dodge it on social media, right?
Sure.
But not that thrilled on what the story tends to be about.
Well, let's get into that. So it's about a Kryptonian. So the book's called Superman Unlimited, right? So that's what the new book's going to be. And I guess maybe that's going to be a thing now because we've got Justice League Unlimited. There might be maybe they'll do a few other Unlimited branded books, but it's about a Kryptonian, it's about an arms race because a Kryptonian asteroid, a Kryptonite asteroid, is what I'm trying to say.
A Kryptonian Kryptonite asteroid.
A Kryptonian Kryptonite meteor thing crashes into the Earth, and apparently an arms race based on Kryptonite tech is underway. But I'll read some of this here from the thing. So the greater availability of Kryptonite across the DC universe changes the balance of power in the criminal empires of Metropolis and across the globe. Intergang, now under new leadership, is on the rise, with particularly all their foot soldiers carrying at least one clip of Kryptonite bullets on them. The asteroid left massive Kryptonite deposits to be mined, and it houses unlimited horrors yet to be unpacked. To survive, Superman will need to forge new alliances and new tech and new tactics if he hopes to carry on his quest for truth, justice, and a better tomorrow. It also adds that it's not the only big change to the status quo. The Daily Planet is going to merge with Galaxy Communications, turning the newspaper into a global network that will present new challenges for editor-in-chief Lois Lane, Jimmy Olsen, and other Planet regulars. So, I mean, I don't mind the base premise of this, which is... like a lot of new Kryptonite arrives on Earth, and all the bad guys suddenly can go and get a chunk of it, and that's maybe a new problem to deal with for Superman. There's some interesting ideas there.
So be more careful. My main problem is this happens every decade or so, where we get the influx of Kryptonite, and then there'll be stories, and all the Kryptonite goes away, or it's along the same. So again, I'm coming in with an open mind. The main thing that bothers me more is this constant change to the Daily Planet, which I understand from a reality standpoint. Media is completely different anymore, right? And big national newspapers aren't this kind of thing. But again, this is another thing that happens, I feel like, every 5 years or so, where we have this update to the Daily Planet, and then nothing ever sticks. So if it sticks, cool.
I don't see this one sticking. I think when you look at real newspapers that have survived, most of them are just as much their website now as they are the actual newspaper. And it feels like if the Daily Planet just went that route, it's fine. But I get what you're saying, though. I feel like I've read, since probably the turn of the century, I would say, probably at least a dozen arcs where part of the arc is the Daily Planet is going through troubles because newspapers are ancient and they have to adapt to the times. There was a period when it was like a TV station, as much as it was a newspaper, if not more so a TV station. There's been times where they've talked about doing different things to whatever, and there's times when they've been taken over by another company. I mean, that's happened probably at least half a dozen times in the last 20 years.
Or Lex buys it and tries to force them to do the headlines that he wants and all that stuff.
What was that company that bought it during the Johnson action stuff? Because remember, there was like a company trying to take it over during that.
That's right. I
the aliens were behind it. I can't remember what the name was, but yeah. So happens often is the point. So yeah, that part just feels like it's another one of those for Superman.
So
I guess the question I have though is Dan Slott going to be better than Williamson? I think he's got a chance. I think he's got a fighting chance of that, but it's also not a name that inspires that much excitement in me. But I hope he proves me wrong. I hope he comes in and says, hey, I've got a great Superman arc or story in me, and it's something different, it's something fresh, even though it doesn't sound that fresh right now. I will say I like it more than like Lois becoming Superwoman and doing stuff like that. It was at least a bit more appealing in that sense.
One of the quotes I saw from him is that this is not like Superior Superman or Spider-Man type stuff. He goes, this is a character I've waited my whole life to write. Oh, sure, right? Yeah. And so, like, I feel like there'll be some freshness at least there. I also thought that about Jason Aaron, and that first Bizarro story left me feeling a little bit empty.
I mean, that's fair, but I've been really enjoying Absolute.
Oh, Superman. Of course. Yeah, but that's an actual fresh take and stuff, right? This feels like Slott wants to play in that Superman sandbox, and if the desire's there, I'm willing to go along, and see at least 4 or 5 issues, right? Just to see what he's got. So
I highly doubt we'll drop this any quickly, if at all.
Yeah.
If it's at least a passable amount, we'll probably want to keep up with it just to talk about it. I think what's interesting here is that Superman's getting a third main ongoing book, which happens obviously from time to time. In fact, there was a time when there was 4 back in the Death of Superman days, of course. It's no surprise why this is happening, obviously, because the movie's coming out, so I think that's why Superman's getting... I mean, Batman isn't either reason. Batman can have 7 ongoing books. Superman, I think to go more than 2 ongoings, there needs to be a reason these days, and I think that's what the reason is. It's because the new movie's coming out. It's a good time to have a Superman #1 out in the shelves. They're going to milk that as much as they can.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
makes sense.
And again, fresh blood. It's always nice. You gotta re-up every once in a while.
If
the same
else,
writers, kicking around. So.
Oh yeah, I mean it is kind of funny just how many people I associated writing for Marvel who are now writing for DC.
Yeah.
And it's not like the DC writers have all went to Marvel. The ones that have left have just went into indie stuff as opposed to going to Marvel. Interestingly, although if nothing else, I will say that this makes me confident. If not this year, then certainly next year when her movie's coming out, we're going to get a Supergirl book. It's inevitable based on this. I think.
Fingers crossed.
So we'll see how that goes.
So I googled Dan Slott just to see what other books he's read, and the picture that came up is, I've been mistaking this man for Jerry Dugan for years now. Every time there's a picture online of Dan Slott, I was like, oh, that's Jerry Dugan. So now I have to go look up what Jerry Dugan looks like, and because this is the picture that was in my head.
Interesting
for that guy, but yeah.
So
I mean, that was a fun little.
I wonder how much of a run he's got in him, and I wonder, he says it won't be like Superior Spider-Man, but that happened very late in he was writing Spider-Man for a long time before he even got to that part, so I wonder what crazy stuff he will get to if they let him write it for, 4 years. So, I mean, we'll see. But I won't say that I'm very neutral. I'm very just in the middle. I'll give it a go. We'll see how it is, but it's not a name that's exciting me.
I mean, as a Superman fan, it is cool to see the Hollywood Reporter make a headline for a new Superman book. So that's real cool. But yeah, again, open minds, open hearts. That's how I'm trying to go into 2025.
Yeah. So the other thing here though is that issue 1 is going to be May 21st. It's saying here, which. I think the solicits we're waiting on are April, so I don't think maybe it'll be in the April solicits as a thing. But what we will get, and the reason why they've announced it soon, is because the April solicits usually have the Free Comic Book Day thing, even though that's a little bit into May. And the reason why they've announced it is because there's going to be like a little lead-in story in the Free Comic Book Day issue for this. As one of the 2 main things that are in there, which is coming out on May 3rd. The other thing that's going to be in there... if I'm sure I had that tabbed up somewhere. Did I? I did. Yeah. Or did I just have 2 do the same thing? No, I didn't. Okay. So the other thing is there's going to be a Jeff Lemire story that's doing something with the Absolute Universe. For what did these end up being? Usually 10, 15 pages. These little minis. So that's the other thing that's going to be there. Yeah, Absolute Universe will be a new story from Jeff Lemire, Giuseppe Camuncoli, and Stefano Nisi. Dark forces begin to gather in the shadows, forces that have been waiting for a very long time to shape events and seize control, all while the mysterious figure watches. But who is this powerful new character, and what do they want with Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and the rest of the emerging heroes? I think what this says to me is that I think we all kind of said, oh, maybe this summer they'll start their whole Absolute and regular universe crossover. This says to me that that's not until next year, and that they're just like keeping the fire stoked with the Absolute Universe. They're still giving it another year to grow before we get to the crossover stuff, which I think is actually quite smart.
Like they're fostering it first before just rushing. I have to say, it feels like Lemire's going to be a bigger architect than I thought, because if they're having him plant these seeds, which is cool because I like Lemire. This mysterious character, right? Keeping an eye on things. It just has Monitor written all over it to me, as a long-standing DC fan, so let's hopefully we're doing new things.
Well, it depends what the perspective is though, because that's assuming that it's like watching from like that sort of level up on high. If this is a character who's just around in the universe keeping an eye on everyone, then it could be an absolute version of, because a monitor wouldn't be like a different thing though, right? Because a monitor would be a monitor regardless of what universe they're in. Whereas I am assuming this will be an absolute version of, I don't know,
something.
Yeah, I don't know, Lex or something. I mean, maybe I'm assuming Lex will be in Superman actually, but whatever, someone like that, someone powerful.
Yeah.
Or maybe this will be the reveal here will be like, oh no, this is actually the last Justice League member who's going to put them all together. This will be I know we're getting absolute Martian Manhunter, but this could, if that wasn't happening, this could be the Martian Manhunter build up to like the Justice League forming or something.
Because who did they mention? They said they mentioned Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman,
and all the other emerging heroes.
Okay.
So my instinct is to say maybe it's not a villain, maybe it's whoever's going to put the team together.
It's a tie,
maybe Amanda Waller is going to turn out to be a hero in the Absolute Universe.
Because she's the one that has to coordinate everybody to save it from Darkseid.
Yeah. Unless we've seen her already. Have we seen her already?
I don't think so.
Yeah, unless she was part of the company in Absolute Superman, then I'm forgetting.
Yeah, I think they mentioned Waller.
They might have mentioned her,
Yeah, shoot.
Oh well, whatever. But that would be.
It has us talking. It has us talking with excitement, though. So that mission accomplished on that front.
So yeah. Superman Unlimited launching in May. Start of May's Free Comic Book Day, and it's got a special story that's leading into that, as well as whatever the Absolute Universe is going to be doing. It does make me think though that the Absolute Universe might get its own event or mini later in the year that spirals out of that, or possibly even just like a Absolute Justice League book, perhaps, rather than a mini. I don't know. But regardless, interesting. I'm more interested in that side than I am the Dan Slott Superman side. I'll say that much.
Yeah.
We did get an early announcement for April as well, though. The Power Company Recharged, coming in April 2025. It's an anthology book that will... they had the anthology book Rise of the Power Company, which is leading to the Power Company Recharged, a 32-page one-shot celebrating DC's black superheroes around April 20th. Not around, on April 20th. I don't know why I said around. They're getting really vague with the release dates. It'll be about the 20th of April. Don't worry about it. But it's written by Brian Edward Hill, which is not surprising, and has art by Kerry Randolph and Aletha Martinez. So it's continuing what those anthology issues were doing. So cool. And we weren't reading those, so I don't suspect we'll read this either, but it's worth mentioning for those who are interested. So
I like that they're keeping it going.
Yeah. And then the other news, which is worth mentioning, is that Diamond filed for bankruptcy this week. So that's a thing. Oh,
how the turns have tabled.
Yeah, it's so wild just how much of a stranglehold they had on the comic book industry just a few years ago, and how everything changed very quickly. Apparently, so David was telling me this, that apparently a lot of shops didn't want to go through the hassle of like going to the new publisher, so they actually still went through Diamond, but Diamond had to order the books from the new publisher, so they were still kind of this middleman. So this has resulted in a lot of shops who were doing that having to finally like go to the publisher directly.
To their own.
Yeah, so that's quite funny.
All I know is, and I talked to the guy that runs my shop, he says, like, when Diamond was in charge of things, there was always delays and this, that, and the other. And since this new company's taken over and it's been a lot easier to order, so far, you're always going to catch a little bit of snags in the chain, but so far it's been so much better. And he's been in the comic book business now for 30 plus years. So, he says it's never been easier, which is always good.
Yeah, it's just kind of wild to see, Diamond finally, because it was just Diamond were the ones who published comics. Like, from when I started reading, that was who was doing it. There was no one else. So it's just kind of weird how much things have changed. So yeah, and Connor brought it up last week, but we got that Ram V's Resurrection Man Quantum Karma coming in April as well. There's actually, you can see some covers and stuff on 8 Comics, which For some reason, Newsarama doesn't have it. I think, honestly, Newsarama's turned into a right shithole. I like, if Ape start putting... I'll have to check to see how Ape handle the solicits, because I may prefer them at this point.
Yeah, because it's so hard to find stuff on Newsarama anymore.
There's so much just fluff. There's like...
Yes.
You know, like, when's the next episode of this TV show coming out? Oh, it's probably the same time the last episode came out last week, you tits. Like, it's just a bunch of stuff that's designed to feed people in search engines into their articles with nothing useful there. And they have to hit like a word count so it looks like an article. So there's always fluff for like 3 paragraphs explaining background before it just gets to actually answering the thing that you were asking for in the first place. Oh.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking at it right now. There's at least four different click-alongs for the new Daredevil trailer. Oh, 5. Never mind. And it's just like, I get it, man. We're excited. It's new Daredevil content, but like,
yeah.
Good Lord, that's a lot of space to take up when we're looking for comic book news. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's kind of just been a decline ever since Screen Rant bought them. Because Newsarama used to be its own thing, and now you know, the Screen Rant have had them for a number of years now. But hey, there we go. So, all right, there's the news. Actually, a nice little bouquet of it this week. So nice. Oh, actually, there was one more thing technically, and I don't think this was supposed to be something they revealed. But there was like a casual reference in an article that Supergirl's like foster parents have been cast, and it just happened to mention, oh, we'll see them first in the Superman movie, and I'm like, I feel like we weren't supposed to know that, but I guess we do.
Cool.
So, if that's like the mid-credit scene is we get to see like Supergirl before our movie, then that'll be a bit of a shame they spoiled it. But the news is out there.
Cool. I mean,
doing the rounds. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll get into the comics. Action Comics 1082, John Ridley writing with Inaki Miranda on the art. So we're back to our 3-issue arcs with rotating teams for Action Comics. And then why I just give Dan Slott Action Comics apparently, so we're still doing this on Action. So fair enough. We will dive in. It's an interesting first issue. Because it's funny because like a few pages in, you know, like some rumblings happening. It already TG'd Major Disaster was going to be the villain, or the maybe not villain's maybe not the right word given the tone of where the story
antagonist.
goes. Yeah. But you know, so it teases some civilians. Earthquake seems to happen, and then it's clear, oh no, it's actually Major Disaster. And Superman shows up, and I remember on that very first couple of pages with Superman, I went, man, the artist is drawing him really kind of like mean and angry looking. That was a bit off. But no, to be fair, that's the point. Within a few pages of that, characters start commenting on the fact that Superman kind of looked out of character, that he looks angry, he's pissed. Like the cops were noticing this. Like Lois obviously notices this and is asking Clark on the couch, like, why are you so upset about this? What's got to you? And that's kind of where the issue goes into, is that it basically goes into like a very old reference from Action number 700 something.
783.
There you go, Matt's the machine.
Well, I only know that because that was before I was reading comics. It's from 2001. Right? Okay. So I went back, look, and it's around that I believe Joe Kelly was writing. So it's around the time of Truth, Justice, or what's so funny about Truth, Justice, and the American Way. You know, so there was a point where they were using Superman to tell these kind of stories of, you know, the greater going ons in the world. And so I'm not surprised that's where John Ridley's taking this, you know. It feels a little bit more of a grounded kind of story.
Which makes sense, I think, from John Ridley. I think he likes to write more grounded stories that tackle subjects. And this feels like it's, you know, Clark's upset because he thought he'd, you know, turned Major Disaster. Major Disaster had been convinced to turn over a new leaf, and he's upset that he's now robbing a bank. And like when he goes to see Major Disaster as Clark Kent at the prison, he does seem like very like regretful about what he's doing. Almost like it feels like someone else has forced him into it, but he's not willing to admit it.
Or that he's a victim of his circumstances, and like he didn't want to do it, but he felt that was his only choice. There's like a desperation to him.
Yeah. And on those pages where Superman's coming in and like stopping the rubble from hitting people before he finally gets the major disaster, you see like an arm sticking out from underneath some rubble. One person has been killed as a result of what's happened here. Yeah, and I like how quiet those pages are. There's not a lot of like narration, not a lot of dialogue. In fact, the book kind of goes out of its way to not give Superman narration.
Yeah.
It's only dialogue he has with other characters. It never like has him speak what he's feeling inside his head. It kind of keeps him at a little bit of an arm's distance, which makes sense because you've got characters saying, "Oh, Superman looks pissed. That's out of character for. I thought it was going to kill Major Disaster. That's weird." So
and the first words, right, when he gets there, is him yelling "you,"
yes,
and then disaster, and disaster's all in a red font and it's bigger, So it really drives home that the quiet there, and that's what breaks it.
Yeah, and it's keeping you at an arm's length so that we're left wondering why Superman's acting and thinking the way he is and what he's doing. And he's really struggling. And Lois like brings up other people that he's kind of like turned over a new leaf with. And it's like, yeah, but Atomic Skull kind of went back to being a bad guy, and this other character went back to being a bad guy. And it feels like he's just starting to feel a bit helpless because he's not actually convinced people to change. But he does go to see Mighty Bruce. I'm not going to pretend I remember who Mighty Bruce is.
No, so I did some digging, of course, and he was during that art or during that story from 783 from Action Comics. He was one of the guys that got out with Major Disaster. He's just a dude. He just hangs out with him, and that's why he gave him that name, the Mighty Bruce. And there was like a gang of them that got together, and he's the one that's still friends, I guess, with Major Disaster. There, and so he's almost like a character reference here.
Yeah, because Clark's asking him because he goes to him as Clark, not as Superman. He's doing like a interview because he's writing a story, and Major Bruce Mighty Bruce, sorry,
Bruce
points out that you're looking for like details to write about to do some sort of human interest story or whatever, but like I think he's just a bit he's just human. I think that's the thing. Clark keeps looking for like, oh, what triggered him to do this? There must be some answer. And it just kind of sounds like, oh no, he's ran out of money. He's like putting on a brave face around us because I've seen him a few weeks ago and he seemed fine, but he's down in his luck. He's in a rough place. He doesn't know what to do. And like that's almost like the scariest explanation, perhaps, to Clark, is that there is no easy to fix solution that could have been addressed. Like he just keeps sliding down into the abyss of like
because Superman wants to see the best in everybody, right? And so if he felt like he helped him find the best part of him, why would he slide back? That doesn't make sense to him. You're already on the up and up. Why would you go back? And so him wanting to find this bigger cause other than like some people just suck, and he won't accept it.
Yeah, it's not even just that some people suck per se. It's more that some people just have harsher circumstances. Because he goes to see Aubrey Sparks and like asks her about stuff, and she kind of like pulls Clark up a little bit for saying, like some of us with superpowers, it's just a constant temptation to use them to solve all the problems we're not supposed to use them to solve, right? So like heroes go around using them to save people and get looked at very highly for it, but for a lot of people with superpowers who have like one power, it's just this like kind of almost like an addiction thing, like it was a crutch or like a gambling problem where I can just use that to like solve all my debt issues. I can just use that to rob a bank. I can just use that to do this. And just kind of like, hey, this is like a struggle that I've dealt with my whole life, and it's probably something that Major Disasters kind of had this temptation there his whole life. So I thought it was hitting some interesting points, and I'm kind of really curious to see where Ridley goes with this story. The ending does kind of come out of nowhere, which is some masked thug comes up, seemingly to mug Clark, and Clark just gets annoyed and says, oh, this guy's stupid. But then the guy hits him in the face with his baton, and there's like a bit of I guess I'll call it like a magic like spark comes off of it. It's sort of like a purple glow to it.
There's a purplish like energy that's surrounding the baton.
Yeah. But so it seems to work though, because it actually hurts Superman, and he goes down and he's got like a cut in his head, and he's like on the floor like coughing up blood, or maybe not even coughing, just like dripping blood.
Yeah. Because he gets whacked in the face. But yeah, he's on the phone with Lois at the time, you know, and it almost takes him by surprise, right? Because he's just like, I'm Superman. It's not going to do anything. So curious to see how this plays into everything.
Yeah, because I thought when he was sort of like pulling his glasses down a little bit, I thought he was going to use his heat vision to just heat up the baton to make the attacker drop it. And then of course you just see like the phone and the glasses flying, and the person runs off. And presumably this person knows that he's Superman, just because they were prepared and don't see, there's no reaction to, oh, the glasses are off, that's Superman. He just runs off without caring. So and I say we really don't know. I mean, there's nothing to go on.
Yeah.
With the identity
also
of the person.
the look of shock on Clark's face on that last page on the top. I think that's some really good part on the art.
Yeah. I mean, I do think out of all these 3-issue arcs that we've had, this is probably the one that's felt the most interesting from like it feels like Ridley's got something to say with this story, and we're going somewhere with it. Now, will I find that satisfying? I don't know until we get to the end of the story, but I'm intrigued for sure right now, and the art's not bad.
Yeah. I mean, there's some wonky parts on the art, but other than that, like it looks, I feel like Superman should, like the way that he is a Superman versus Clark. I really appreciate. It almost looks like Clark's not trying to take up as much space. So I always love when artists draw kind of his shoulders forward, and he's kind of, his body language isn't as confident, and that's full here because this is mainly a Clark Kent book, right? Like Superman shows up at the beginning to face down major disaster, but the rest of him, he's Clark Kent.
Yeah. Well, I don't really bother spending much time, making that distinction, but yeah, I guess you're right.
So,
yeah, it's doing some interesting stuff, and I'm intrigued by what it's going to say. I mean, I think the art is like not out of this world, but I think the layouts are pretty good. The fight, or I say the fight, the
attack.
Well, not even the attack, but they're going around and getting all the rubble and like saving people, until and then the sort of standoff with because there's no actual fight between them, because basically, I mean, Disaster just surrenders, and that's part of what made me think that this is like. He immediately surrenders. He doesn't even try to fight or get away, which makes me think either, like, whoever's made him do this, if someone has made him do it, this is part of what he's been told to do, is to, like, turn himself in immediately. Or maybe he saw that he killed someone and just wants to turn himself in, and that's kind of powerful in its own right. So I think, those options are pretty good.
So, Major Disaster, his powers involve probability, right? And he has a gambling problem. I wonder if there's more to it than, right? There's more to that.
Yeah.
At play here, and that's what leads him into this. But yeah, very, very curious. I'm definitely hooked going forward to see where this goes.
Yeah. And it being a tight 3-issue thing is also kind of cool.
Especially after 12 of Waid.
Yes.
It's nice, refreshing that we'll get 3 over a 3-month period.
The funny thing with Waid's book, though, is that it had 12 issues, but also felt like it was rushing through a lot of things. I feel like I should almost critique. Some people say, "Oh, DC should have given him more issues," but I also feel like as a writer, 12 issues is still plenty to work with. He should have paced his story out appropriately for that.
I mean, yeah, that's two trades. Back in the day, most trades were 6 issues, right?
Yeah,
that's more than enough to tell a story.
Yeah, so, should have maybe taken a few elements out so that things didn't feel as rushed. But yeah, all right, we give an action.
I'm gonna give this a solid 7.
I am going higher than that. I think I'm engaged in what's happening. I think it taking a very different tact from all the other Superman books I'm reading is very nice. So, I guess did 8 for me. I think I'm intrigued enough that I'm enjoying where it's going. I'm enjoying that Clark's struggling with something, right? And it's not like a fight. He's struggling with just a human decision that he doesn't understand. I think that's quite compelling. So, yeah, 10 for me. Nightwing 122 is the issue number. Legacy number 309. Dan Morter's writing with Dexter Soy on the art. So, Yeah, I'm still really digging this for the most part. I mean, don't get me wrong. Last issue, me and Connor critiqued the ending quite a bit. That the reveal was that this is someone from when he was Robin, because shoehorning a character into someone's past is something that's done too often with comic book characters, especially back characters for some reason. So there is that.
That said, I appreciate the circus tie, right? Because there's a lot of Dick's life I've spent in the circus. I feel like we do this a lot about, but this feels like it's not Haley's circus, And as we find out here, it's a different circus entirely, So just the fact that we're delving into there, I can accept the person from the past here.
Yeah, I was about to make fun of you there though, because I was like, wait, yeah, because we've never seen them try to tie something in Dick's life back to the circus before. Like, I feel like we do that all the time.
No, it's happened. I mean, going back to the New 52 and Rebirth, there's been quite a few, him at the circus.
I feel like every single writer I've read writing Nightwing in the past decade have done it at least once.
Yeah,
that was a lot. But like I say, I mean, we don't even have the context for what the circus is though in the flashback, because it kind of seems like it's more like, because Dick even says that there's a hall of mirrors. That's not really a circus thing. That's more.
No, it's a carnival.
Yeah. So it feels like this is more just something that the villains have done. But
it's called Cirque du Sin also. So like, there's a completely different vibe to it.
Yeah. Because so his sister, the mayor, is talking to Maggie Sawyer about what's going on in the city. Dick shows up and says, "Hey, it's that bitch that's running the company. What's the name? Spheric. Thank you. I keep wanting to say OCP because they're just OCP, but yeah, Spheric." And he explains, this is when I was back when I had a partner, back when he was Robin, and yeah, basically there was this team of villains who had killed people at this big top kind of event, and Batman and Robin went in to deal with it, and this woman, one of the younger characters on the villain team, fought Dick specifically, and they had a fight whilst Batman was dealing with the rest of the team, which included like a tall guy, a strong man,
a tattooed lady, a circus strongman. It looks like 2 ringmasters, right? Because the tall man's dressed a lot like the ringmaster,
Yeah, but I feel like his gimmick is that he's tall. So,
he's tall.
Yeah. The other one's probably the actual ringmaster. But...
So it actually strikes me more as like a Cirque du Soleil style circus versus what we're used to with Dick, which is like the big top kind of traveling, traditional circus. I didn't pick up on that till right now.
I mean, I figured the title kind of hinted it towards that.
Well, yeah. I mean, you can call it that because it sounds like, but to actually have that presentation, I wasn't picking up on it as I was reading.
Yeah. I really know the difference between circuses to know what the difference between that and a regular circus is, but
right. So like when we talk about a regular circus with the trapeze, the clowns, the all the different acts, right? Cirque du Soleil were a group of street performers that were doing, like contortionist things, and it wasn't the typical kind of circus acts. They made it their own thing, and now there's like 15 shows on the ship here of them all doing, varying, differing things. And I don't quite think of it in the same circus as I do, the acrobats and clowns and all that kind of stuff. So here to see the way they were dressed and all of that, it clicked finally.
Yeah, so we don't really focus too much on Batman. We stayed mostly with Dick and his sort of interaction with her, who's going by the name Columbina. If that's how you pronounce that. Columbina. Yeah, I feel like because the word Columbia is obviously in my head, so I want to just say that, but with a different ending. But I don't know if that's quite right. But she basically offers Dick a place in their circus, like, hey, because Dick says a few things, and she's like, wait, you're going to like lecture me on feeling lost and being taken in by like a broody mentor, like, or a weirdo, like that's basically what you are. So there's a bit of a back and forth with them during that. But the big ending to it, though, is that, she basically says, like, oh, most people don't, see, like, what she calls it? Most people can't see the Zani, even if he wants them to. And then Dick looks up, and it's like a giant being, like a godlike being in the sky, is, like, opening up the big top and looking down at him, saying, nice to meet you, circus boy. And then she runs off, and she gets away. Batman's like captured the rest of them, so she's the only one that actually left. And And to be fair, I think, young Dick has the right idea. He's like, oh, she drugged me with something. Like, I just hallucinated and saw a big man in the sky. Admittedly, I feel like there's going to be more to that, given that this is how they've presented it to us. What exactly was this big Zanny in the sky that she's talking about? Who's got like a very creepy looking kind of circus mask on, and looks like he has sort of the ruffled collar that you get on like circus performers.
Yep.
So I'm not sure where we're going with that. It was a cool visual though, and it felt almost like it was like a circus version of Lovecraft of this big face in the sky.
It definitely feels like something we're not supposed to see, right? She sets that up with most people can't see him even if he wants them to.
But Dick can, so maybe but so I'm very curious to explore who she is now and maybe see what her beliefs are, and because up until now she's been a corporate villain. She's been like, oh, I'm militarizing the police and I've got all this going on. But this element, like, it's one thing to tie her into the backstory, which is whatever, it's a comic trope that's used all the time, but it's another thing to introduce this idea that there's like some, I don't want to call it spiritual, but like some connection,
metaphysical kind of thing,
whether or not it's really that or not, because it could be just like some sort of like hallucination, and like if so, is that another way she's going to like do things later? She's going to employ that as a tactic in manipulating the city, is making them hallucinate to see something she wants them to. Is it just like an early sign that she uses tricks of deception on people that she's fighting with? I don't know, but I'm intrigued anyway by that particular moment. The rest of it, like, I like the art and the rest of it for sure. I think it looks cool, this flashback. It's always fun.
I like the muted kind of colors.
Oh sure,
and whatnot. Makes it look dingy almost.
And it's always fun to see, early sort of blue cape Batman with Robin, and a little bit of nostalgia there.
Yeah. So just real quick, I googled the names of these Colombina, which led to the Commedia dell'arte, and it's a whole style of circus that was big in Italy, where all of them, all the different characters play a certain trope, and then the people playing the characters can take it from there, and there's different acts that they can do. It's really heavily based on improv. But the Zani is a character type best known as an astute servant and a trickster, right? And there's two different kinds, right? You have the silly kind of Zani and then the cunning Zani. And the English word zany derives from this character.
Okay,
so
interesting.
It's almost like this is kind of like a metaphysical Joker. And I don't want to say like the grand scheme of Joker of Gotham and whatnot, but it's definitely, I feel like Waters is leaning towards that, where there's something at play here with this character, whether, he's there or not, she believes in him.
I will say it's the bit of spice that I think because I really enjoyed last issue. I loved like the aftermath of like the teddy bear like teenager being killed and like everything that the fallout of all that. I really liked all of that stuff. I just groaned a little bit at the end when it was like, hey, this woman's got ties to your time as Robin because it's such a thing. This exploration though of like, hey, she believes in this big thing, this like metaphysical character, and it may or may not be real. That's like the bit of interest. Like, okay, her character's a little bit more interesting because of that. Not because she ran into Dick when she was younger, but because of that. That's why she's interesting now.
And just the fact that he calls him Little Circus Boy the first time, and that's where she's getting it from, because he recognizes the circus spirit in him, right? And so, like, regardless if he's there or not, Dick saw him when he was young. And now that adds to this whole thing. Like, how are they connected and why? Is it the spirit of the circus, like the performance kind of aspect thing? Because she seems to be an acrobat as well, right? And from the way that she goes, and why did she go from this performance-based kind of weird troupe into, like you said, the company from RoboCop, OCP?
OCP, yes.
Yeah. Why did she go to Spheric, and where does the trickster clown Zani play into all of that too? So it gives us this little thread, and then we can keep pulling, and I kind of like Waters for that. He kind of does this with every story I've read from him. There's like this surreal kind of aspect to it that I feel like we're not supposed to be seeing, but is playing out anyways.
Yeah. I'd buy that for $3.99.
There you go. We did.
Yeah, so Sawyer's still pissed at Nightwing, doesn't think there's enough evidence here. I mean, there is a bit more evidence, but technically he can't reveal it because it would reveal stuff about him and Babs. So, yeah, she's like, hey, you're lucky that the cop you dragged behind the motorcycle is too embarrassed to go public with it, because otherwise I'd have to, like, give you a lot of trouble. So clearly there's not a lot of believing Dick right now, so he's going to go and try and get some proof. And it's worth mentioning that as well, we know this villain is like a sort of acrobat in the flashback story. We've not really seen any evidence that she can still do that. I'm assuming we're going to at some point. I'm assuming at some point she's going to start flipping around and it'll be a big moment. But they're distracted though. They're interrupted by an explosion in the city. And Dick goes looking for it, and it's at the Bloodhaven Police Department. And gives trace to the perpetrator, who seems to be one of the Flyboys, and he's like, hey, who put you up to this? Was it Olivia Pierce? Was it her? This wasn't just your doing. And he's like, I'm telling you nothing. You're just another cop. So Dick flees before the actual flying cops get there. We find out the Titans have abandoned the Titans Tower in Bloodhaven. Is this maybe something that's going on in Titans that we've not read?
This is why I hinted that I'm going to get caught up. I'm only 2 issues behind. I think I can do it.
Okay, fine. You can tell us all then when you've.
I will let you know.
You've read.
But I'm curious because they just left the tower sitting there.
Yeah, it's just an abandoned building there now.
It's empty. And they didn't bother to let Dick know. So yeah, I'm curious to see what's going on there.
Yeah. So Babs shows up and has a bit of a moment with him. I like Dick dealing with all this stuff and going through kind of a Dark Night of the Soul kind of period. It feels like it's hitting him with some harder stuff rather than just the usual happy-go-lucky Dick kind of tone, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
So, he's feeling pretty down about the fact that he gave the gangs all this opportunity to call him for help. He's trying something different, and Babs is saying, hey, something new, it's going to take them a bit of time to get to it. So the cliffhanger at the end is that one of the Flyboys, I think it is anyway, the girl from the Flyboys, assuming they have girls in the Fly. I'm only saying that because she's green. I actually don't know. I'm assuming she is.
No, because she's also talking with Z's, which is their kind of vocal identification.
Ah, yes.
So but she's also wearing a lab coat, so I'm wondering if she's one of the people that helps create them because they're genetically altered.
Yeah, there's test tube things in the background and whatnot. But she actually goes to reach for the Nightwing signal button. And it's like, come on, Nightwing, they're going to kill us all. So it seems like someone is going to call for help, and that's maybe where we'll pick up next issue from.
But I really liked him being put out that he tried to do this thing and he tried to help them and be that person in Bloodhaven, and it seemed like they didn't want the help because he's like the Flyboy told him, you're just another cop. You ain't on our side.
Well, I think that's what's neat about the construction of this issue is that Waters made a point of showing you one of the members of that gang earlier on in that chase, so that when this character pops up at the end looking for the button to press, it's not just because sure, yes, we were introduced to all the gangs 3 issues ago, but we're never going to remember them that well. I think it's really smart writing to remind us of that particular gang because that's the one who's going to call for help at the end of the issue. I think that's quite smart.
Yeah. Because we have the gangs, we have the guys that dress all sharp. I forget their names. You have the Blockbuster, you have these guys, the Flyboys, and the Teddies.
Yes.
So there's a bunch of, and it seems like Spheric's playing them all against each other. And it wouldn't surprise me if she's bought off some of them. Well, I say she, but the company itself. Right? She's playing the cops and them and everything. Which of course her whole goal is to make Nightwing feel helpless, or not helpless, hopeless, in all of this.
Helpless and hopeless.
But yeah, so I like where it ended here by showing that no, they are willing. They have a mutual antagonist.
Yeah, maybe they had to take a bit of time to realize it to get into some trouble. Especially now that, seemingly they've successfully been framed for this explosion at the police station, which I assume is also destroying some evidence, conveniently, if I was to guess. I think coming out of this issue, a complaint that I thought I might have had as I was reading it is how much of the issue was taken up with a flashback. But the end of the flashback was so interesting and made the villain a lot more interesting that I don't think it was wasted time, actually, now that we've read it. And I think the ending's intriguing. So I'm really liking the ongoing themes that Waters is playing with, though. And the art from Soy is always fun to look at.
Yep.
The coloring obviously makes quite a difference in the flashback to make it feel different. But you know, all the stuff in present day, I think is fun to look at. You know, things like the fire really pops because it's got such a bluing sort of like light green color scheme. Otherwise, because it's a Nightwing book, so yeah.
I love how kinetic all the art feels. Like even when people are just standing there, the way that Soy draws the hair with all the angles and whatnot, it gives everything kind of this bounce.
It feels like the hair's constantly bouncing as they're talking, and like you know the wind's making it flow certain ways, and the hair's whipping around, and
and it's those little type of things that really put the art over. Because a lot of the present day stuff is Nightwing standing on the roof talking to Sawyer and his sister. So you got to make that feel, you know, in a book like Nightwing where there's constant motion. You know, I feel like Soy is, you know, the right person for that. So
yeah, it's going to have the mood to go with it, and definitely, you know, Nightwing's hair at times here is definitely we're in emo Nightwing territory.
Yes.
But I don't say that as a complaint. I kind of like him with a bit of an emo haircut, if I'm honest.
He's kind of got the hair drapes split in the middle, you know, and in his face he's got to do the wipe, you know. So yeah,
it's good stuff. So yeah, I'm digging Nightwing. What are you giving Nightwing, Matt?
I'm gonna give this a solid 8.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same. 8 out of 10 for me. Really enjoying it. Green Lantern, Fractured Spectrum, issue 1. Jeremy Adams writing with V. Kenneth, Marion on the art. So this is a one-shot, but it's very much part of like the Green Lantern run, and is also kind of the launching pad for the new Green Lantern Corps book that's about to hit. So it's just kind of establishing where we're going from here in the Green Lantern world, or the corner of the world anyway.
Universe.
Inhabit. Yeah. So yeah, and the Grey Lantern, or Sorrow. Sorrow. If we're going with the name, but I think Grey Lantern works just as well. He's a big part of this, meaning that, or he's an effect of a big part of it, which is that because all the batteries are gone except this new green one that they've got, or the secret green one that they've got, basically the spectrum is, as the title implies, is fractured, and there's these refractions popping up, which is, but they mention it in the book that some people around the universe, various races of people, are just starting to like show signs of some of the powers of these different colors because there's no battery containing them anymore. So some people, if they're getting angry, some red lantern energy might pop out.
I do love that, and it's because of Theros, right? The cause and effect here. Theros tried to take over. He had his own, you know, blended lanterns that could alter, you know, like phase shift between things because he got rid of all the power batteries. But that energy has to go somewhere, so it's manifesting into people. But the green is still being focused through, right, that secret lantern. You know, so you know, and the green being at the center of the spectrum, right? When you look at the Ragey Biff, like the rainbow, I really like that they're going to be the ones that are kind of the coordinators of all of this. They're the ones that have to clean this up and try to get it under control.
Even the new Guardians are kind of like each Guardian represents a different color in the spectrum. It's an interesting little touch as well. So that's interesting. Yeah, because the book starts with the Library of Forever, and we've got this alien librarian who's slithering around. I say not that he's imposing. He looks very friendly as far as
he's like a slug guy.
Yeah,
kind
monsters
of
go. But Sorrow shows up and demands a certain book. Right, he looks for the Book of Oa. And what's so funny about this is that later on they do some retconning and to the guy was like really into the Book of Oa. But to be fair, like, didn't we see Guy and Shepherd go and get the Book of Oa during War Journal? Was the book?
Yeah, they were. That's what they were doing, right? He hid it, and that's why Shepherd was able to go. The reason Shepherd was sent to go get Guy is because Guy had already had the Book of Oa.
Yes. So that's actually feeding into some stuff here, and more specifically, it's feeding into the fact that when we first see Sorrow after we get a bunch of just regular Green Lantern stuff, it's because Sorrow's beating up Guy because he went to get the Book of Oa from Guy's place, which everyone rightfully, probably one of my favorite moments of the book is when Guy says he's not an idiot, and then every other Green Lantern in the room looks at him like, yes you are, Guy.
I knew that look was going to be your, and he even goes, most of the time. He's a useful idiot, right? And I mean that not in the sinister kind of term. Is this version of Guy Gardner of the last 10, 15 years is his heart's in the right place, but he's rough around the edges.
Yeah,
and here, his obsession with the Book of Oa and his kind of rebel attitude, wanting to know where all this stuff's coming from and finding out that every time that there's this big event, the book gets rewritten. And so this version that he has is kind of the first draft. There's things in there that we haven't known.
Yeah, he's been trying to backdate the original book and like figure out what was there originally, what's been changed. And he finds out that there used to be a book for each color, right? There was a Book of Oa for each color of the spectrum, so that's interesting. And he also says that one of the reasons why the Grey Lantern wants the Book of Oa, or what he's theorizing he wants the Book of Oa for, is that there's plans in that original Book of Oa that he's kind of like translated and put together for how to build a power battery. And therefore, okay, what can he do with a power battery? Especially if they build one for sorrow. If they're going to build one that kind of channels sorrow.
Yeah, because if all this fractured energy ends up going through somewhere, it's going to fracture things even more.
Yeah. So they basically say that not only will, I mean, obviously the obvious effect is that it'll make everyone feel sorrow, right? That feeling will go throughout the universe. But what's worse is, and we see at the end, actually, the librarian that they forced to help him is dead and has all these like gray, like kind of like spikes going through him. So this character, like, obviously he's been this like, oh, Carol dumped him and he kind of got really sorrowful and turned into this. But this feels like the first time that he's really started to like kill beings and like be like, just outright evil with it. So it's like, hey, this is going to ruin the universe. We have to stop him from building a power battery. So that's what the goal is by the end of the issue. And I enjoyed, them like, so they've transported the power battery from Earth to Oa, which someone does question here. Like I said, the Jadestone, the robot, the Mazo robot says, hey, is it a good idea like putting it here because now people will try and attack it? And Hal says, well, that's the point, is that it's like a symbol. It's like saying, hey, we're back, we're in charge,
It's a lighthouse. They are the light in the darkness, right? It's going to draw people to there and away from the rest of the danger. So,
you've got Kelly working with John's sister to
Why are we drawing a blank on her name?
I'm drawing a blank, but it's John's sister.
Ellie. It's Kelly and Ellie.
Kelly and Ellie. That should be easy to remember.
Smart.
And you've got Jess giving the speech to the troops, sort of saying, hey, we've started the Green Lantern Corps again, and we're a new version of it, and yada yada. So that's cool and nice. And that's what, if I have a critique, to be honest, if there's one thing in this whole book that annoyed me a little bit, is that it's just as she's finished giving this speech, is they're interrupted with Sorrow fighting Guy. And it's just because there's so many times in comics it feels like the plot just interrupts whatever the hero's doing, and I'm starting to get a little bit tired of that trope. It feels like, couldn't we just couldn't this have ended and then this just happened later that night? But no, we have to have it interrupt the thing.
It's like in wrestling where the guy gets interrupted, but we have to wait for the music to play at a certain point, right? Instead of them just coming out and interrupting, right? We have to have the whole, big grand entrance.
It's just, it kind of feels like, oh, we've solved this previous crisis, this war we were having with Tharos and the United Planets and all that is finally over. And then the new thing interrupts the celebration. And it just kind of feels like, can we at least imply like a week apiece? I'm not saying I need to read about it. I'm not saying we have to actually tell a story about the week apiece, but just imply that there's a bit of time before the next thing props up, please.
Yeah. It's been a bit quiet. That's why Guy was able to, get into his book fashioning,
that would be
something
more believable. Yeah, if some time had passed, it'd be more believable that he's been doing all this research. And honestly, you expect me to believe that Guy can read? I'm having a hard time, like, really believing that.
He went to the University of Michigan, okay? Sure, it was to play football, but, he went to college.
All right. I just wanted to make my joke. I wasn't being serious.
I know. And I got to stand up for my dude. But yeah, dude, I love the gray, right? Which is, it's not the absence of color, right? But it's up against the green, just the way that when they bust through, the way that the pages split,
Well, what's funny about grey? So grey is the absence of color technically, but so is white and black. So because people, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, some people are really anal when you talk about colors and you say white and black, and you say, well, technically white and black aren't colors. Like, yes, technically on a scientific level they're not, but for the sake of art they are, right?
Yeah.
But technically you've got a color scale, and then separately there's a gray scale, because all shades of gray are lacking color. That's kind of the point. So grey being this thing they're doing now, and especially it's interesting when you think about what white and black mean in terms of the lantern spectrum, because black is death, white is life, right? That's what they've come to mean.
And sorrow is like a lamenting of death and life, right? So it is like,
what a word to use, Matt. Very good. Lamenting.
It is. You know, but yeah, so it is its own thing, and as much as I wish we were kind of getting away from the spectrums and stuff, at least this is a fresh take, and the fact that the Green Lantern Corps have to go clean this kind of stuff up because of the things that Theros had done with the spectrum, it's not just like we're doing new spectrums like when Johns was doing it, throwing them out there because, oh, it would be cool to have this whole new War of Light. There feels like there's a cause and effect here.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just with Johns, like, once we get past Blackest Night, it felt like anything he added onto it just felt like too much at that point. It's like, okay, we've done all this already, can we do something else? We've not done it in a little while for now, which is helping, but it's also because, hey, all those other spectrums, or all the other colours in the spectrum are kind of gone right now to an extent. They're obviously their energy still exists, but we don't have all these other cores that we're dealing with right now. Right. It's a bit more focused, and I think that's what makes it feel a bit less like we're just treading old ground. Because
they bring up Kilowog and how, you know, for whatever reason the yellow energy saved him. You know, and there's going to be, you know, Hal kind of wonders that there's got to be more than that, more to it than that.
Yeah.
So I do like their seeding for that too. It's almost like whatever's coming, the original spectrum is kind of whatever the powers that be that at play there realize this big threat, and so they take, you know, the drill instructor, the Green Lantern, and kind of dip him in that kind of yellow type stuff too. It's like a fusion.
Yeah. So, you know, I'm excited about the new status quo. I think Adams did a pretty good job in his first kind of epic, if you will, to use this book's own terminology, because it says this is the start of the new epic at the end. But the only critique really being is that it did get a little bit more messier and less satisfying right at the end. I think the last chunk of it wasn't quite as tight and as well paced as that first arc or two. So it would be nice if that's maybe the thing that he improves on here in his second kind of long form story, is that if all the conclusion stuff can really hit it, you know, really hit that satisfying mark. I don't think it's the end of the world if it doesn't, because I still enjoyed that first epic even without like the ending being completely 100% satisfying, because everything it was playing with was still interesting and enjoyable to read as a Green Lantern fan. But if that's the thing, that if we can nail this in the second big story, is if like all the big final climax fights and all that can all feel like they slot into place. Because, you know, because we were joking about how there's Staros and Varan and Varus and whatever the two names were, and it was getting very confusing and the things were jumping around a lot. I think maybe having the second book to do some of the other characters will probably help, I would suspect.
Yeah.
So, and hopefully Carol's back as well, because she's not in this special. They mentioned that she's with the Justice League right now, but I hope that doesn't mean that she's just gone from Green Lantern proper.
Yeah.
It would be nice for her and Hal to still interact, so.
Yeah, and there were some seeds thrown in the last Green Lantern issue about the Zamorons.
Yes.
And the Star Sapphire and all that type of stuff too. So I'm sure that'll play into their greater story.
Yeah, because all the avatars of the various colors are probably going to be at play in some way, so. Yeah. So, all right, what are you giving the Fractured Spectrum special?
I'm gonna give it 8.5.
Oh, I'll just go the 8. I think, you know, we never really talk about the art. I think the art's fine. You know, it's pretty house style, and that's both good and bad. It's good in the sense that it's not bad, but it's bad in the sense that it's not special. So you know,
I definitely feel there's a manga-esque quality to it, like Hal's hair. And Guy's hair, everything comes to this crazy angle, but I feel like that's just the artist's style.
Yeah, I will say, for as much as I love that panel of them all staring at Guy in the last page, when he says that he's not an idiot, the hair on both like Cagle and Hal is very like manga-esque, as you say. So not 100% to my taste necessarily, but certainly solid enough and doesn't falter. You know, some of the big moments are handled really well. it's definitely expressive. I definitely always got the emotion that the characters were portraying, so that's, points for that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but that said though, just an 8 out of 10 for me. I was getting at. So cool. I've had nothing but 8 so far, so which is good but also unexciting. So
yeah.
Let's see if we can shake it up a little bit. The New Gods, issue 2, Ram V writing with Evan Cagle and Jesse Lonergan on the art. So, yeah, different artists on this issue.
Well, no, just the first 4 pages. Just like it was 4NS, right, on the first issue. Because I read the first issue before I read this one because I was behind.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that's part of how they're telling the story.
Yeah, I think I'd written down for the last month that it was just Fornes, and that's why I thought it was just. I was like, wait, where's Fornes this time?
Evan Cagle on both of them.
That's fair. So Evan Cagle's the main artist. I bet that was just League of Comic Geeks credit and was confusing last time. I bet that's what that was.
Mm-hmm.
Or it was my fault and I just did something stupid. Either way, yes, New Gods issue 2. You weren't here for issue 1.
Nope.
So how did you feel about that before we?
I really love how Ram V is taking to mythology, and I feel like we're bearing witness to a new version, not a new version, but he's redefining the mythology of the New Gods through the death of Darkseid, and it is so easy to follow along. I might have dove in deep, but I had to pull up the New Gods to figure out who's who, and you never feel lost when Ram V's doing it. When he mentions these people, it feels like there's an understanding to who that character is, and that continues into the second issue.
Yeah, because we start off with K-Rock, who's on like a giant technodrome in space. I guess it's kind of a war world in a lot of ways, to compare it to something. But the grey sort of like tech looking aspect of it made me think of the Technodrome. Yep. But yeah, the issue sort of starts with it sort of setting up who this is, and whatnot, and then ends with like this coming for New Genesis, right? At the end.
Yeah, for New Genesis and Apocalypse, for the Fourth World in general.
Yeah. Because this started, I'm like, okay, this is interesting, but like, let's get to the Mr. Miracle part. I want to talk about. I want to see like him going after to save this new god that's been born.
Yeah.
Because that was the stuff that really got me excited in the first issue, and it basically starts that part of the story with Mr. Miracle writing a note for Barda to like say, hey, don't be mad at me. Like, I have to go save this, because if I didn't, take up this task, I wouldn't be the person you fell in love with. I wouldn't be able to look my daughter in the eye, and leaves this note. And it's all this very touching thing for a few pages. Talks, we see a little bit glimpse of what Orion's doing as he's giving him his week head start, and he's already wasted 3 days, seemingly, before he's like taking the mission up. And then he goes to leave, and Bard is standing in full costume, holding the baby, and saying, "The effing nerve of you, scot-free. Tell me you weren't going off to do a mission without me that your stupid brother gave you." And he's like, "You're not mad, right?" And she's like, "You're on diaper duty forever." And throws a diaper at his face, which I thought was
I love
funny.
So when she shows up, right, she looks larger than life, and there's the big Barda behind her, right? And then she's looking down at him while holding the baby. And then the next panel is she has picked him up essentially from his collar.
Yes.
I love Barda so much.
Yeah.
This 2024 was the year of Barda, and it's continuing to 2025. So I'm here for it.
I mean, I don't know if I'd call 2024 the year of, but surely the year of Tom King's Mr. Miracle was the year of Barda.
Well, yeah, but like through Birds of Prey and everything, I have this newfound, love of this character, and I'm glad that Ram V
but I think it started there. I feel like Barda has been getting flowers since
but
that book.
But what'd she do in between Mr. Miracle and Birds?
I mean, not a ton, but
she wasn't around.
But I think that was the excitement, though, was built up from that. And the fact that, in this book they have a kid, like, it feels like, no, it's kind of following on from that. And
now remind me, from the Tom King stuff, that was a boy, though, right? They had a son? Because I feel like his name was Jacob after Jack Kirby.
That sounds right, yeah.
Okay, I mean, not that that's a big deal, because multiverse, whatever. But
I think it's just like the idea that they have a kid was like, it's in the same way that like Killing Joke wasn't in canon, it was like a separate universe thing, but they kept like a big detail from it because they wanted to do that with Barbara. I feel like, yeah, obviously the King book was a Black Label book and it was separate, but I think this idea that Barda and Scott Free are living together and have had a baby is something that's just in continuity now because they like that.
Yeah, and as much as I love the idea that the kid was an homage to Jack Kirby because this was his, his achievement over at DC, the fact that her name's Olivia Free and it's short for Live Free,
yes,
I just love it. Wordplay, it's great.
Yeah, it's good stuff. And we see that the new god, the baby, is with the parents who have adopted it in India. And they're hiding out, and they're talking about how they're scared because they saw what the baby did to like the soldiers that were after them in the prior issue. And we get a little bit of context that they found the baby at the temple that they were looking at. I don't know if they were maybe archaeologists or something, but
or they were just visiting the temple in the area,
maybe,
right?
Possibly.
Krishna Raja, and that they're just like, oh, it's like a cliche. People leave babies at temples all the time, but there was something different, right? They were.
I've never heard of that cliche, but I'm assuming that it's true.
Yeah. I'm just talking in the terms of the story that they were. It was 3 years after they had lost their own kid, and that this baby is presented to them, and they don't even believe in such a god, yet they took this baby, and now just fate is intervening here. So just really good stuff. Just the way that the baby's looking up on that panel where the guy picks him up. It's just some great art here.
Yeah. And we get I love the sort of in the art the sort of the busyness of the city because at the start of this section where we see him arriving home, and then here after this where we see like the agent who's calling it in. Turns out Maxwell Lord is looking for the baby, and is the one who's getting reported in on. From this agent saying, hey, yeah, we've tracked like a money transfer to here. They're trying to like stay off grid, but we think we can find them. And Maxwell Lord's talking to this character who I'm not as familiar with.
Me neither.
Yeah, Seraphin, I think they say these.
Seraphin, yeah.
His name was. But it sounds like when Maxwell Lord was in hospital, like some being came and touched him in the head and left an Omega symbol, to which the Seraphim immediately goes, Metron. And I'm like, I mean, I guess, yeah, sure. That's the plausible guess it is any at this point. Yeah. But he's determined to find this new god. And I don't think it's good for the baby if Maxwell Lord finds him, so... No,
and him with a flippin' Charles Manson-esque Omega symbol on his head, Max Lord's never been creepier. And he's done some creepy things.
Yeah, where's Wonder Woman and her neck snapping skills when you need her? Yeah.
All right, so Seraphin was the youngest member of the Forever People, and the Forever People were these... Essentially, they're kind of like Power Rangers of the Fourth World. They could... Or the Planeteers with Captain Planet. They'd put their powers together and create Infinity Man. So this is a gritty version of him.
I suspect I'm going to learn about a lot of Fourth World characters on the course of this book, because I don't know a lot of them. So
me neither, and hence why I had to have the page open to look at who these guys are, right? Because we know the Bardas, the Desads, the Granny Goodness, and Highfather, Light Ray, right?
Yeah.
Some of these other ones, like the name seems like Seraphin sounds like a Forever People name. Would not have known he was in the Forever People until I clicked.
I prefer his alternate self, Sans Seraphin. I'll see myself out. Yeah, so we see that Mantis has decided that he's the ruler of Apocalypse. Much
like Starscream in the Transformers movie.
Yeah,
from the 80s.
Yeah, so the Sad's talking to Metron, and they're lamenting that Darkseid is dead and whatever. Obviously, we know that he's not really dead, but obviously they all think
he is. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's talking about the prophecy and like there's been an eclipse in the sky being covered up, but it's actually the big sort of War World style technodrome that's covering up the sun in the sky, and it's our man from the start of the book. What's his name again?
Shoot.
See, this is the thing.
Catch me looking.
Too many character names I'm not used to. But it's him at the end who's invading at the end of the book.
Yeah, so what they're propping up, right, is that like New Genesis and Apocalypse had this tenuous pull, right? And and that they were in balance. That's the whole point of Mr. Miracle and Orion, right? They were swapped to create a peace because Orion's actually Darkseid's son, and Mr. Miracle is actually Highfather's son. Yet now, without Darkseid, it's almost like Highfather's in this weird mental state. He almost has no purpose now because it's almost like without Darkseid to oppose him, he has no standing. And now something worse than Darkseid's come, right? Because Darkseid is all about anti-life, right? And yeah, that's not the same as death. But this new guy coming in, this what did we call him again? Carrick.
Yeah. He
seems to be a representative of where's it at? I'm gonna pull it here. The theoretical antithesis of uncreation, the absence of ideas, not in opposition to life, but opposition to existence. So he's looking at these. They're calling them source beings, right? Because they get their life from the source. He's gonna wipe them all out.
Yeah, he's got an interesting design because he's got like this like sort of scaly skin in the side of his face or whatever, but he's got what I would describe as like a like Deadshot's like visor that he has on for his aim. He's got like a sort of like rock version of that. Is how I'd describe it. It's like a rock visor that he's got on his face. Interesting.
So this whole, and half of his body's all like diseased with this stuff, and he's a scavenger. He goes by many different names, so they really go out of their way to make him seem like this guy's a big bad. This is a big deal. Him showing up to Apocalypse, which is in complete disarray with Darkseid's death, and it's not good for anybody.
Yeah, and Highfather seems to be having nightmares of this guy coming. Like he's scared of it. So possibly they're going to Apocalypse first because with no Darkseid at all, Apocalypse is maybe the easier one to take. And then once they've got Apocalypse rolled up in their forces, then they can take New Genesis on.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I think I said they came to New Genesis first at the start. I misspoke.
No.
But, it's intriguing. If anything, like, I wasn't expecting there to be so much to still do away from, like, the hunting the baby plot. But, yeah, it ended up splitting into, like, 4 kind of equalish part, or even 5 equalish parts if you count the Max Lord part as separate. To the India stuff, but no, all of it's intriguing. It feels like there's a big saga planned here. Obviously, we expected Ram V to be delivering the goods, but it's cooking so far. Like it's building up some stuff. So.
Yeah, I've always loved the concept of the fourth world. As Kirby had meant that Earth was meant to be representative of the fifth world, and that's always posed a problem for the new gods. That's why they were so interference, because if the fourth world dies, the fifth world rises. And I kind of like that Ram V's playing with that, where now there's this force that's not Darkseid that's coming out to wipe them out indiscriminately, and maybe not create the fifth world. And we have Barda and Mr. Miracle so involved with the superheroes, right? What does this force mean for them? Now we have Maxwell Lord getting, blessed by Metron.
Oh, I mean, forget them specifically. What does it mean for Earth? Like if this Krator,
Carrick,
there you go. I was very close to Kratos there, which is definitely very wrong.
Yes.
If he does take over both New Genesis and Apocalypse, then what does that mean for Earth and the rest of the universe?
Right. So,
probably not good things. I don't imagine.
Not at all.
So,
but I love the way that Ram V tackles mythology, and it's also a lot of the first issues bleeding into the second. So I don't want to talk too much about the first issue, but the way that opened up with Forness's art, with that other being creeping up on the source wall, while it looks like Metron's getting downloaded information from beyond it, right? There's just so much there, and the iconography of knowledge being passed on or forbidden knowledge, and so what's his play here? Why is he involving Max Lord? What does he know that he's not sharing? Because Metron always seems to be at the center of anything. He's kind of the person that goes in between. So I know you're not big on Game of Thrones, but Metron's kind of like Littlefinger, or Chaos is a ladder. But ultimately, what's he trying to climb up? So and Ram V, I feel like understands that and has him in the middle of all of this. So God, man, every time I think he's outdone himself, Ram V shows up and just does something else incredible.
Yeah, and I think the art's pretty solid throughout as well. That page where Bard is waiting at the door with the big lettering behind her, I think is really impactful. The real busy and scratchiness of the city, all those like little details that just make it feel super messy in a good way. I mean, like it feels like there's a lot going on. I think works really well. I think it helps that we're doing very different types of scenario. You've got evil people in a boardroom speaking next to scenes in a bustling city, next to scenes on a hell planet, with like over the top designed people in mass and whatnot. Like it just very, very different things that all feels very coherent and comes together by the end. So yeah. All right, what are you rating New Gods issue 2?
Look, I hate to be a self-parody, but I'm gonna give probably rate this. I'm gonna give it a 9.
I don't think that's overrated at all, because I'm gonna give it a 9.
Okay. There we go. Anytime there's a Ram V theme that gets me all hyped up, I tend to over give up, I could have given this a 9.5, but I dialed it back just as coach.
Yeah, you worry too much.
True. I have anxiety, sir. Diagnosed.
All right. Batman, Superman, World's Finest 35. Mark Waid writing with Adrián Gutiérrez on the art. So I've been a little lukewarm in the last few issues of this, actually. It's been kind of feeling a bit fluffy recently. Why are you smirking?
Oh, because there's a follow-up to this. I'm waiting for it.
Okay. Well, so I was curious. I'm happy this is not a one-shot. I'm happy it said part 1, because I feel like too many of the stories recently have been a little bit, like I say, just feeding into that fluff where there's not been much to it. So we do a whole thing here where, and I was a little confused at first if this was like 2 places separate from Atlantis, or if this was like the 2 places that make up Atlantis. It felt very, because at first I thought it was like separate locations, but later on it felt like, no, this is just Atlantis, because the way they keep talking about Arthur like coming back and whatever. But basically the second place, so there's let me just get the names of these 2 places again. We have, oh god, where's the names of the
Poseidonus,
right? And Titanus, was that the other one? Titanus.
So yeah,
right.
So we can remember those going forward, because Poseidon's the Lord of the Sea, right? And Triton was one of his sons, also Lord of the Sea.
So Titanus
has mer people.
Yeah, so everyone in Titanus is all mermaids and mermen. So Titanus starts having like a zombie virus, in simplistic terms, and it's infecting people and maybe coming towards Atlantis or Poseidonus. And Poseidonus is concerned about this. They want to call Aquaman in, who was hanging out with Robin and Superman up top. And basically, by the end of the issue, some of the Tritonus people believe, one of whom is the king, who is the husband of a mermaid who used to date Clark, which is fine. This is Mark Waid flexing his weird DC knowledge here.
So you don't know anything about Lori Lamaris?
Not a goddamn thing, man.
All right, so Silver Age in college.
Of course, the Silver Age. Of course, he's experimenting with fish people. He's like Shape of Water.
Well, so you joke about that, but she had a human form, so they date in college. But when she gets thrown into water, she becomes a mermaid.
All right. Okay.
And so she was his college girlfriend. Clark dates a mermaid. But yeah, I'm shocked that you were that familiar with that.
You're shocked?
Yeah. I thought this was like a thing that most DC fans know about Clark's time, getting into fish people.
I don't think she's ever popped up in a story I've read before, so.
No, but it's one of those weird fact things, that like, that gets tossed around. Anyways, I learned this back reading Wizard magazine back, 25, 26 years ago, Okay. But it's also Superman, so I'm more drawn to it.
So yeah, Superman, Batman, and Robin go down with Aquaman to inspect this, and they're wearing breathers, obviously, and it's It's kind of an okay premise. It's interesting enough. I think that the idea that there's going to be a war because Tritonus thinks that Poseidon like did this to them intentionally. Like they came over and snuck in because they talk about seeing mysterious people sneaking about. I suspect that'll turn out to be someone else. In fact, there's a reveal at the end of who's probably behind this virus. Floronic Man is involved.
Goddamn Woodrew.
Yes, Woodrew. I don't know.
As soon as they mentioned that it was a fungal kind of thing that Batman mentions, that the infection that's making them into zombies, I was like, okay, something's afoot, because that's what's going on in Ivy right now, right? It's about the fungus and the crossbreeding that Woodrew had done. So the fact that it ends up being him, I'm not surprised. But you're talking about this being fluff, and I thought you were going to say it's more of it, and that's where I kind of line up. Where I was like, I don't mind World's Finest being fluffy, but like this was fine. I think Gutierrez's art is drawing all the stuff in Atlantis looks really cool. As I feel like when he was drawing Blue Beetle, the more alien something looked, the more it leaned into his art style. And so here he's drawing mer people and different parts of Atlantis and whatnot. So it looks cool, but it's just like the story's okay. Like, I'm not that invested in it. Yeah, and then it turns out to be Woodrew. And I'm like, all right, that's cool. Woodrew and Atlantis. That's something I've never thought of before. So
I think I like this more than a few of the previous issues recently, just because it felt like, okay, it's at least going to be longer than one issue. He's setting some stuff up. Admittedly, I do think the Atlantis is annoyed at Arthur for, you're spending too much time on the surface with the surface world and not down here with us. I'm so sick of that story beat for Aquaman that I just kind of drone it out when it starts happening again. I'm like, I've seen this like 100 times at this point. Yeah. So anyway, the king dude from Tritonus like zaps Superman with a bunch of magic from his weapon. So that's the whole thing, and then the ending is revealed that Floronic Man's behind everything. So it's all right. It's all right.
I do appreciate the fact that they're at a Metropolis Monarchs game, and we find out that Aquaman grew up listening to Portland Sea Devils, which is another one of the DC teams, and we all know that's kind of my niche.
I'll be talking more about them in Batman the Outsiders later.
Hey, look at that. Talk about a synchronicity.
Yeah, not that team, but other sports teams.
Gotcha. But yeah, just so I always like that type of stuff, and talking about, just his time and Aquaman's time with the team, and everything still feels new because it's still early kind of DC kind of stuff. So, that was fun. But again, we have other things going on with Waid that he can tell these bigger stories. So just the fact that he's getting to stretch his legs here. Why not bring Lori Lamaris back in the pages of World's Finest? Pete's. I'm supposed to vamp, but I'm going to point out the fact that I'm supposed to vamp.
I was eating a snack, Matt. You got your cover for me. The hunger's hitting really hard, and there was 2 biscuits sitting still there in the packet. It was too tempting not to just shove them in my mouth.
These are mine.
Wow.
What kind of biscuits? Are they shortbread?
No, they're
I just figured the people in Scotland have shortbread all around.
Shortbread's great.
Lays there. Yeah.
No, this is like a biscuit where in the middle there's like a sort of chocolate cream. Not a sandwich like an Oreo, more like a complete casing. But yeah, just some McVitie's numbers. Anyway, I'm already hungry. There's still like half the books left. I need a pick me up. Okay.
Gotcha.
All right. What are you giving out? World's Finest.
I'm gonna give this a 7.5.
Yeah, I'll give it a 7. I think it's fine. It was entertaining enough. But it's definitely like the thing that I'm probably at least like passionate about every time there's an issue of this now. Compared to everything else. So
yeah.
All right. Batman and Robin, year 1, issue 4. Mark Waid writing with Chris Samnee on the art. So now this is the Waid book that's really popping though right now.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Because we had the cliffhanger in the last issue where Batman goes out of the water after they were confronting some of the gangsters and Two-Face on the ship. And Robin starts this issue with diving in after him and trying to desperately save him because he's scared that he's going to lose him. And there's some just fun selling art of like Batman sending him back up and then getting himself out from underneath this big shipping crate on his own. And it's all sort of, you know, dark red coloring, which is not what you think of when you think of underwater. But it's definitely a visual, because when they get back up top and it is blue again, and Batman does pop back up, and he's kind of mad at Robin for doing that. It's like, hey, you could have drowned. He's like, I could have helped. And Batman kind of catches himself and says, the flashlight was helpful. Let's just get to the bottom. Like, he sort of catches himself and sort of says, okay, you did help a little bit. So I'm enjoying this progression of their early days relationship that they're playing with.
Yeah. Well, just the red representative of danger, right, in color theory. So they're underneath there and all that. So yeah, and it's the stark contrast with the blue, like you said. Samnee's expressions though, top notch. That Robin down at the bottom, him looking up at Batman when he says, Two-Face shouted his name, and it's just like this kind of bewildered, disappointed, like, oh man, oh shucks, I messed up. Really sells the scene. Yeah,
the art here is very. I mean, obviously we're not surprised to say that it's Samnee.
Yeah,
but. We get more of the villain, where it seems like the villain's about to kill his father by pushing him off the edge of the building, and he doesn't do it, but the dad definitely thinks he's going to.
I could have, is what he could have done. Like, look what I could have done. You couldn't stop me.
Yeah, he basically says, I won't kill you because I want you to see what a successful gangster looks like, because you were shit, Dad. I'm way better than you.
Yeah. Definitely feels a bit Breaking Bad, a bit, what was his Uncle Hector, right? And he's stuck in the chair.
Yeah. Although I don't remember any of his family wanting to kill him, though.
No. But that's what I just mean. Is like this guy that was once something great, and now he's in this chair. So I'm sure this plot point will come up towards the end. I'm sure, him dangling his dad over like that will come to pay a consequence.
Now, of course, Hector's rivals definitely wanted to kill him, though, for the record. But family members, not so much.
Yes.
He basically talks about how his father was this loud gangster who wanted to show strength all the time, whereas he understands that real powerful people rule from the shadows and do it quietly when people don't know you exist. So it's not about the glory of being publicly feared or whatever. But of course, he does find out that Batman now knows his name because of Two-Face yelling it out. So they want to find Two-Face. That's where we leave off in that scene. And then we come back to the social services lady coming by for a surprise visit and being frustrated because the last time she's tried to do this, no one's been home. So Alfred's like covering for them, and he's like, yeah, they'll be home. I mean, they'll be awake soon. I'm sure they'll be up any second now. Batman and Robin are just arriving in the cave, and like the silent alarm's going off, and Batman's like, oh, quick, run, get upstairs. So yeah, there's a whole charade where Alfred's like saying to Dick, hey, put these pajamas on and pretend you just got up. And he's like, but I'm wide awake. And he just like gives him this like angry look, like, boy, do what you're told.
I love that, but I'm already dressed, because he's in the clothes to put the pajamas on. I also love, I don't think I've ever seen this before, the boxes to denote like a hushed whisper. They got dotted lines around the speech bubbles. I thought that was a fun little stylistic choice.
I feel like I've seen that before. I couldn't tell you where, but I feel like I've seen it before. Yeah.
So I just love that. It denotes like they're talking like this. So, but yeah.
Yeah. And then when he does come in and she starts asking him questions, he's like, oh yeah, I spend a lot of time with Bruce Wayne. He's a good teacher. And she's like, oh, what does he teach you? A ton about Gotham City. I know a lot about the crime rates, and you just see like Bruce's eyebrow go up and like, watch it, Dick, watch it.
Well, there's that. And it's like, what have you been doing to stay busy? He's like, I went swimming. There's just, I could see the scene play out in like a movie, and we just see Bruce and Alfred's reaction behind him. Their shocked faces because they think he's going to give something away. Yeah, it's played expertly.
But there's all these little shreds of truth in what he's saying technically about what he's been doing. And of course, like, she's a little bit annoyed that it seems like he's staying up late and waking up too late, and I'm like, geez, lady, you would hate my sleeping pattern.
Yeah.
But
you're also not a child that's meant to go to school. You're an adult that makes your own decisions.
yeah, but I was the exact same when I was a teenager, Matt. This is not new.
So I guess who you are as a teen kind of who you are, because I was in bed early. I need my sleep.
No, I never was. I was always a up all night kind of guy. But yeah, so she's like, hey, but what she gets these. But anyway, the funny end of this scene though is that they keep saying about tomorrow being an important day, and she leaves, and he's like, hey, what's tomorrow? What's tomorrow? And he's like, oh, it's the first day of September tomorrow. It's like, wait, therefore what? And I like, just as she's getting into her car, the giant speech bubble coming out of the house saying school. He's clearly not pleased with this revelation that he has to go to school. He somehow thought that being Robin meant that because this has all been playing out over the summer. You know, he thought this would just be what he'd be doing now. And it's like, no, you still have to actually have all the other normal childhood things too.
Well, there's that, and it's got to think, when was the last time he was in school? He just came from the circus.
That's a good point. Yeah, what was his school life like when he was on the road? Maybe he was homeschooled or something. So
now he has to go be around all these people he doesn't know. Ugh. No, thank you.
Yeah, he's very pissed about that. Although Batman does do some bat work away from Robin after this, because he basically distracts a bunch of the guards for the villain with bats in a crate, and then has a one-on-one with this Mr. Grimaldi, or General Grimaldi, I should say.
Grimaldi.
And is like, hey, we're going to have a talk, you and me. So Grimaldi gets all, all tough and is like, hey, like, you know, like, I'm taking over this town, blah, blah, blah. Batman brings up his time in the military, his discharge, all that stuff. But Batman basically just says, hey, you've got 24 hours to leave my city, or you'll have to deal with me. And that's when these guys come in and he's like, hey, kill him. Batman gets away, of course. Really fun couple of pages, though, in the art here. All the angled, there's all the panels where he's running up the stairs away from them and like dropping, smoke pellets or putting sensors down for the bats to come in there. It's all angled like stairs, so there's just a little bit of an action sort of slant to everything. And there's a great one that's split up into 3 panels where Batman's sort of like jumping through the panels, and it's like we're just missing him in each panel until the last one where he's actually there, like with his cape up, like deflecting bullets. Really good stuff.
Really good stuff, yeah.
Yeah, it's really nice sequential stuff. And then I also love when he jumps out the window at the end and he sort of like throws a smoke bomb up and then jumps through the smoke that's been created from it. It just looks really cool.
The color work here, right? We go from like these yellows with the gunshots and the cool blues of like an office building, and he jumps out and it's like purples and reds and that side of the color wheel. I don't know what the color in between you would call that is, like that lavender, I guess. And just the color work Samnee's playing with here too is top of the game.
Yeah, so Batman gets away, of course, and the villain's like, oh, well, I've underestimated... But it actually says, like, hey, there won't be a punishment this time for letting him get away. I'm blaming myself for this. I've underestimated him. And basically this intercuts with Dick being dropped off for his first day in school. And the caption is, from the villain, is like, oh, there's no prison on Earth that can hold some people. And that you read that as Dick's looking at the school, and I'm like, oh, Dick's going to get out of there. Like Dick's breaking out of school, and that's going to be a whole conflict point next issue, I bet. So
Operation Recess.
Operation Recess. Very good. No, I mean, I'm still loving this book. I'm loving the slow build to this villain and his like power levels. I think there's a good compelling thing. The whole almost killing his own father, who's in a wheelchair, felt super dark. Gave you the right kind of tone for him. And I think the guidance counselor stuff, or the social services worker coming by to check in and stuff, I think that stuff's been really good so far and really added like an extra layer to this. It's not just them working as Batman and Robin, it's every single facet of like Dick taking this character in as a ward is, I think, been really well explored here in this book. I think it's like probably the best thing Waid's written since he's came back to DC. Now, I'm saying that after 4 issues now. I feel quite confident in saying that it feels like it's really hitting everything I want it to be hitting.
Yeah, because it's only 6 issues, right?
That might be right. It could. I think you may be right.
That's,
I think you may be right, but part of me wanted to say it could be 12, but I think you might be right. It's only 6.
Okay, I mean, because if that's the case, it's well paced because we're about halfway through. We have a big altercation here.
Yeah.
With the with the main villain, we kind of really get to know who he is, and yeah.
Who knows though? I mean, maybe this will be a thing where it's 6 issues, but then he does a year 2 and continues, this version of these characters or something.
Yeah,
I could be into that. But yeah, and and for the record, the other thing that's my favorite of his that he's done at DC since he came back is his Shazam run. I really liked, but I think this is actually edging out that a little bit.
So upon further review, it looks like it's a 12 issue.
That's 12. Okay, good. I'm glad actually.
We're a quarter through, but still the pacing still stands. Like if you break it up into smaller chunks, this is still paced pretty well.
I think it feels more paced for 12 than it does 6. So I'm glad that it's 12. It feels just right for 12.
Mm-hmm.
So. That's great. All right, what are you giving Batman and Robin Year 1?
I'm gonna give this a 9. I really enjoyed this issue.
I can't argue with it. Yeah, 9 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
It's excellent. All right, the question all along the Watchtower issue 3, Alex Segura writing with Cian Tormey on the art. So I remember issue 2 last month was a little bit of a disappointment because it felt like it disregarded all the things that were interesting about issue 1 just for, hey, Eradicators here, action scenes.
Yep.
And then this issue kind of follows that a little bit where it kind of leads to a Cyborg Superman by the end as kind of, hey, they're doing something, they've got a big plan. So I'm dropping this book, Matt. This issue convinced me I don't want to read any more of this. Yeah, I'm done.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so when you got I should have seen it coming before. All the stuff of Cyborg Superman, the whole the suit of Lockdown, right? Or of Conduit, not Lockdown. Not figuring that out, and we had seen Cyborg Superman maybe lurking in the Phantom Zone at the end of Waid's story, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So that's there. I'm gonna keep going. So if you're done, I'll keep this because I still like the idea of Sheriff Montoya up in the Watchtower.
I like that idea. I just don't think the plot's going down a path that I was hoping for something more lower key. A murder mystery was the perfect thing that I thought this book was going for. And
that bait and switch doesn't feel good, does it?
Yeah, but issue 2 and 3, it's like, no, it's just a big action comic. It's just this. It feels like it's just the same sort of scale as any other comic book now, and I think that's robbing it a little bit of its.
That's fair.
Of what the premise was that I was excited about in the first place. It just feels like any other. It's not Superman, obviously, but it could just be a Superman comic with him investigating something, and then it turns out to be Eradicator and Cyborg Superman and all this other stuff going on. So.
Yeah, no, I get where you're coming from because I was a bit disappointed. We kind of got away from some of the more Watchmen-y elements I was picking up on in the first issue.
However,
I'm curious what Nightshade's doing here because they mentioned they're not a bad guy; they're playing their own thing. So I'm curious to see how that plays into Cyborg Superman and what this means for you have Question and Kate on the same side, obviously, and who else pops up? We have the Beatles still, and see how they all come together. So this could be me having a Connor moment and going like, "Oh, I'm gonna stick it out," and then instantly regret it next time. But yeah, I mean, That said, I don't have much to say. You're right. This is kind of to get away from the murder mystery and why Montoya is kind of the perfect person for this. To she has a Phantom Zone shotgun. And she has to fight Cyborg Superman now. It does make it feel less special.
I mean, that's the thing. It's not terrible by any means. I just, what was making it interesting is gone for me now, and there's so much books to read, so much competition. I feel like an easy drop, but I finished this issue and went, you know what, this is the one that I could have just not read today.
See, I got to Cyborg Superman and went, oh, okay, cool. We haven't seen Headshot in a minute. Here he is.
I'm not against a good Cyborg Superman story. I just don't think that this is the book that I wanted it in.
No, of course. And me saying that's not like anything on you. It's just our differencing in reactions to it. Where you went, Cyborg Superman. And I went, oh, Cyborg Superman. So
because both me and Carl were pretty down on issue 2 because we were both thought all the interesting stuff was shoved out the window for hey, Eradicator's like action sequences, you know?
I don't remember issue 2 that much. I know I read it on vacation. I remember being in the hotel room, and I, not that I forgot about Eradicator, but I can't tell you a bunch of the big hits in there. So definitely coming into this one, I was a little bit like, but yeah, that reveal towards at the end, that really ramped up, I think, to a bigger level. But yeah, I guess we could just read it because I have nothing more else to say. It's kind of a by the numbers action book, a lot of fight scenes and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the most interesting thing is Kate being pissed at Renee for thinking she's a murderer. But even that in issue 2 annoyed me because I felt like this is obviously not her. Like, obviously we're not turning Batwoman into a killer. So, it almost like a waste of time to even go down that path. But yeah, like honestly, a more down to earth murder mystery where Renee and Kate's relationships kind of challenged and tested in more natural ways, I think would have been way more interesting for me than what this is. So for me, this is like a 6. Okay. What are you feeling?
Yeah, I was getting about a 6.57. I'll knock it down to a 6.5 a little bit. Just because, again, not remembering parts of 2, it's not really sticking, in a way that I wish that it would have. So who knows by the time I read a month's worth of comics by the next time, we'll see where I pick up here, if it's going to be worth it. But yeah, that's all.
All right. Jenny Sparks, issue 6, Tom King writing with Jeff Spokes on the art. So this is so wild. So we had issues of this doing the housing crisis and the crash. We had the last issue, which you weren't here for, which was the the election in 2016, and then this issue is COVID, and it's a bold thing to do. I definitely said last issue that I was feeling a little bit weird with just how like exactly this is just real world things it's referencing constantly. Yeah, I
mean, she is the spirit of the 21st century, right?
No, she's the spirit of the 20th century.
Right, but I feel like we're starting to get to the point where by the end of this, she's going to represent the 21st century because that's all the themes that King's using her to discuss, right?
I don't think it's going to end with her being this representing the 21st century.
No?
I think I disagree with that statement.
Okay. Because that's what I'm picking up on here. The fact that the fact that we're going through COVID and the fact that we just, I know that it was coming up on 4 years ago, 5 years ago. God damn.
5 years now, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was actually
like it was yesterday.
And it was like February, so it'll be 5 years exactly next month.
Yeah. So like, it made me definitely feel like, I don't want to say icky because it's not like icky, but I was reading this like, so that's what we're doing. We're going from the election now to the pandemic. Cool, I guess. That said, I do like the discussion between Jenny and Captain Atom about what makes a god, and her leaning into the narcissism of him and giving him kind of what he wants, but is that what he wants? There's always like moving goalpost kind of deals. So I thought that was at least interesting.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not that it's a bad issue. It's just like, I think I said this last time that I would prefer that some of this stuff was a bit more subtext than just here's actually bringing up the election, here's actually bringing up COVID and sort of doing stuff directly with that. I mean, yeah, the conversation between Jenny and Captain Atom where she's like, look, I'm here to finally say you're a god. Let's just get this over with. But then she starts to sort of mock him with it and kind of pokes at him and whatever. But all the stuff with Jenny, like in the flashbacks, being mad at Superman for not fixing COVID, just felt really weird to me.
Yeah.
Especially since, like, I mean, I get that this is maybe not necessarily in continuity, and that's fine, but the idea that, COVID happened in the DC universe just feels kind of weird. And having, like all these panels of Superman wearing a face mask, and I don't know, it all feels a bit strange.
I like Superman's reasoning for it, because that was the reasoning we're all having, is it's not about you, it's about people that...
Sure, yeah, that's fine.
Right. Which, again, lines up with Superman. And her being upset about it lines up with the kind of more cynical side of things. But like you said, I wish it was a little bit more subtext than on the nose. Yeah,
the problem is that it's like just sort of bringing these things up so directly. It starts to just feel a little bit weirdly preachy. And this is coming from a place where I am probably on the same side as Tom King with his opinions on a lot of these things and the politics of it. I'm pretty sure I agree with them on the vast majority of the things that he is bringing up and referencing. It's just a little bit weird to just have the characters directly reference it, and it's because as we've been going through the book, it's been getting closer and closer to, like, you know, recent things that I remember and lived through, and there was a lot of hot discussion about it. Like I say, just 4 or 5 years ago. It does feel a little bit weird to just have it brought up and talked about in this way.
And I don't know if this is just me, but I like the idea that stuff doesn't happen like it does in the DC universe because of the superheroes, right? Like, you have the Atom, right? And you feel like you just feel like supervillains are constantly introducing a new strain of something, yet it's the Justice League's job to prevent that, right? Like, so you have characters like the Atom that can shrink down and go personally attack it and come up with a cure or whatever. So having something as mundane as the pandemic affect Superman and Jenny and all of this stuff, I don't know, it feels off. You know, like, just the mundanity, and maybe that's the point for Tom King. Like, he's trying to inject that into the DC universe. This is how they would have reacted to it. But I don't necessarily know if I want to read that.
Yeah, it's just a strange move. The stuff with, like, Jenny and Captain Atom, where she basically starts, like, saying, well, okay, what's next then? You're a god now, so what are you doing? And he's like, I don't know. That's a bit weird for someone omniscient. Omniscient, thank you, to say. And it's like, you know, oh yeah, that's my fault for expecting a god to make a coherent point. And that's when he gets mad and sort of like smashes the glass in her hand, it cuts her hand, and then he tries to heal her afterwards, and she's like, piss it off. And it's kind of like, you know, progressing from there. And she goes into this idea of him, like, this desire to be a god because, like, nothing else he'd done before was good enough, right? And it's like, it's almost like becoming a god, he doesn't have to deal with the actual pain that he feels from the decisions that were made in the past that led to his life being the way it was. Instead of actually dealing with his pain, he's just rising up to become something bigger than everything else, because it means he doesn't have to. I think the phrasing she uses at one point is, by saying that you're like have to concern yourself with everything, it means you don't have to actually address anything specific. I thought that was interesting. And he gets very upset when he loses tic-tac-toe as well. Might we add.
So he is not as godlike, right? He doesn't have that. And it's just like, just because you have a lot of power, just because you have a lot of pain, it doesn't give you dominion over everything. You know?
He doesn't have answers for everything. He doesn't know everything. You
know? But yeah, I like that, because I was saying at work, like, when everything's an emergency, nothing's an emergency. Right? If everything's on the same level, then what are we doing? And that's kind of where he's trying to treat all these power, that I have the most power, therefore I should rule over everything, you know, and I'm a benevolent god and I saved this man. And she points out, like, no, you prevented him from seeing his wife. That's not, you didn't even ask if that's what he wanted, you know. So I do like all those moral questions here at there. I just wish the framing of the pandemic and stuff were handled differently. Bit more nuance on King's part, which we know he's capable of.
Yeah, for sure. You know, we see her getting her vaccination shot. We see her, you know, observing, like, protocols when she's getting food delivered, and sort of thanks and says that, oh, the food delivery people are heroes, and it just all felt a little bit weirdly just too specific, and like, we're just talking about the pandemic now. Anyway, the issue ends with he teleports the man that he cured back and says that he fixed it. And then when she says, did you? And he says, have a look. She opens the door and he seems to have erased reality outside the bar. There's nothing there. It's just white. Or maybe he's transported the bar somewhere into nothingness.
Right.
Regardless, though, that's your big bold thing. Because isn't the next issue last?
Yes.
Yeah, that just sounds the last one.
7.
I do like. I mean, obviously we're going to finish it, right? We're not going to drop it with one issue left. But it's definitely the most conflicted I've felt about any of King's books in a long time.
Because it started with a hot start. We were really into it.
Yeah, issue 1 was great. Issue 1 was such a well done issue.
and I just feel like it's been diminishing returns since.
Yeah.
And again, it's very wordy, which we tend to get with King. But when you're feeling like it's got diminishing returns, like I saved this for last, right? And it was just one of those things that was just, all right, I got to get through it because I know it's going to be a lot. But yeah, I do like she says at the end, she says, every god I meet plays effing tricks on me. Divinity School must be a barrel of effing laughs. And I just like that here that she has, again, by the end of this, she's completely disregarded him.
Yeah.
You know? So, and that's where he shows what he can do, right? And whatever this white is, right? The nothingness, you know, that's his last laugh here. So again, storytelling is still on point in places. I just wish it carried throughout.
I just think conceptually there's just a bit of a misstep here, right? I don't know if what he just wanted to do with this book quite clicks in the way that I think most of his books do.
Yeah, because it seems like the fans of The Authority and Jenny Sparks aren't happy, and it feels like people like us aren't that happy. So at the end of the day, who's this book for?
Yeah, and I'm sure the people who complain about things being woke absolutely despise it as well for their own stupid reasons. So,
but we don't take their opinion at all. Like it's
no, but what I'm saying is though is that there's like no groups. I don't think. That, you know, I mean, that's not to say that I'm sure there's some people who do like it, but like it feels broadly speaking that every group is unsatisfied.
Yeah.
Well,
maybe that's the greater, you know, the greater message on this, and in terms of media and everything. I don't know. I'm grasping at straws here because I expect more from King. Because I tend to like his stuff more than I don't, but this is starting to edge towards the not that I don't like it because it's not bad, but you know, is this going to be something that we go back to like we when we're talking about New Gods, we bring up Mr. Miracle, you know, there's stuff on there that still land here. I don't know if we'll talk about this in years to come like we do his other projects.
Oh no, I mean I agree with that sentiment, but I do think you phrased that like, oh, like, you know, he has good and he has bad. I'm like, I think he mostly has amazing. Like I think if you look at his DC work, like at this point he is like hitting, you know, 8 times out of 10 he's given us something amazing or special to read, and then we have this, we have like the tail end of his Batman run, and we have Heroes in Crisis as the examples of, you know,
what was that last one? I don't remember that one.
Heroes of don't worry about it, Matt. Don't you worry your head.
Definitely didn't involve Wally West doing things that I regret.
No, definitely don't remember that. So yeah, but I don't think this is nowhere near Heroes in Crisis, and it's not anywhere near like the worst parts of his Batman run. It's still very competent, and it's still got lots of little good storytelling bits and good art and all the other things. But compared to like, you know, Human Target, Mr. Miracle, Strange Adventures, Rorschach, all these, like, you know, Danger Street, and currently Black Canary's been really good after a couple issues. So, you know, that's fine. He can have a slight misfire every few books. I'm not going to be mad at that. So anyway, what you give Jenny Sparks issue 6?
I'm gonna give this a 7.5.
Yeah, I'll give it a 7. Like, I still think it's good. It's just, I'm just not clicking with it in the way that I wish I was.
I saw the pandemic stuff and I got annoyed, and not for any reason. It just was like, God, don't remind me of that. That time sucked.
Yeah, maybe it's too soon. It's too soon for us. And I think the election one also hurt because it's obviously been repeated. So it's like,
maybe when he wrote that, he thought things were gonna go elsewhere.
Yeah, maybe he thought, there's no way they'll do it again.
Wild card. It's America.
So yeah, the book's just too depressing, is what we're saying. The last couple issues are just so depressing that we can't deal with it.
Straight up, not having a good time.
All right. The Next House by the Sea, issue 5, James Tynion the 4th with Álvaro Martínez Bueno on the art. Been a couple of months since we had the last one of these, but happy to have it back. This was a great issue. I thought I really get into the main couple things this book was doing. One, of course, was Nora reminiscing about Max and their interactions with Max, and that Max used Nora, who wasn't Nora at the time, of course, was Norm at the time. Max convinced by Walter, we get this flashback where they freeze Nora, and they have a conversation where Walter's like, hey, you should be getting more involved with the humans, understand them better, feel some human experiences. And when they unfreeze Nora, Max is like, hey, would you like to kiss? Yeah. Good. Yeah. And then they just kiss. That's
because Max like, this one acts weird around me. It's I don't like it.
Yeah, Walter has to explain why that is and what's going on.
And I do like the central conceit, it seems, between Walter and Max. The difference between them is Walter goes, we need to know why they're exceptional. It's not just they're the best at things. It's how they react to things. And so I seemed like that's the main differences between the house. Like, yes, it seemed like Walter went with the sentimental choice. These were his friends. But they were his friends because he got to know them. Right? And with Max, it's all these separate people who are all the best in their fields, but doesn't understand why they're the best.
They're that's in this conversation where Walter says, I think I've found my first pick. And Max is like, but wait, what do you mean? They've not accomplished anything yet. They've not done anything yet. It's high school. It's a high schooler. What are you talking about? So I like that, and that kind of reminiscence. Obviously, it pays up for the cliffhanger at the end, which is that Max shows up to talk to Nora, and that's after Nora's done a whole scene talking to the sky, saying, "Hey, Walter, I helped you fake your death. I helped you build this place. Talk to me, damn it." And Walter does not show up. Walter seems to be there though. The dog runs back to Walter somewhere in whatever pocket dimension he's in near the house. And Walter generally looks sad that he's not responding. He looks sad that he's staying away from the house, or at the very least Nora. So I think that stuff's really cool. And then the cliffhanger, of course, is that Max shows up. Max shows up and says, hey, we need to talk. That's exciting. But I think the more exciting half of this issue is the more demented side, which is the second house, the house by the sea. They are torturing Oliver, the actor, to get information about the other house and who's in it, because they're already at the point. And to be fair, when I say torture, they're using their reality warping powers to string him up by what used to be his arms and legs, but it's just like tendons and stuff, like going up into the walls. And they're just making him talk. And even when they're done with this at the end, they say, hey, we can't let him out, but we'll give him his arms and legs back, and we'll just give him like a room with no doors so they can't get out.
Yeah, there's a window though, so we can keep an eye on him.
Yes, of course.
You know, make sure he's up to no good. But I do like that they seem to position the pop star as somebody with a conscience. You know, because they bring her into it. And she's kind of like, "What are you guys doing?" You know, so I do like there seems to be some. They're not all on one side, and also the big, like the hulky looking guy with all the big muscles. He's just like, there's no reason to be this vicious. But there's a group of them, and I got to give Bueno credit. He makes that group look sinister. That's standing behind with like
they're monsters. And what I loved about the writing here is that they're having this conversation, and the one who's trying to convince them they have to do this, it's the big hulking guy who's saying, "Hey, like they're probably over there already considering the same course of action we are. They could come and kill us in our sleep. I mean, all these houses are all like the best of the best. Like." Those people over there will be our intellectual equals or better. And then you turn the page and they're not plotting to kill anyone at that house. In fact, they're trying to get the dog to fetch a tennis ball. And it's just this dichotomy of this house full of people who are the best of what they are, in theory, are instantly paranoid that this other house is going to try and kill them and are plotting the death of the other house. But the main house is like, we don't care.
They're living.
Yeah, we're just going to live. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. Well, I love that the comedians, like, they're like, you're only throwing the tennis ball. You don't even know if the dog likes the tennis ball. He's like, everybody loves tennis ball. I'm not a dog, and I love playing with tennis balls. That line, for whatever reason, just got me. And just like, it's just, the complete normalcy that's going on as we know that the world around them completely gone. Yet they are living life in the most normal, boring way. I mean, talking about tennis balls.
That's the thing, though. I think that in some way, the reason why Walter's house, if we ever get to the point where one is declared a winner, the reason why his house might win is because he didn't fill it up with narcissists. they're all acting like human beings, and it's all the other houses, because as soon as this house caught wind that there's other houses and that eventually only one house will be picked to survive, they were immediately scheming, and they were immediately paranoid, and they're ensuring that they're the ones who are saved. Like, we
have to win.
Like 1%ers who are like, oh, we have to make sure we stay rich. We have to make sure we're the ones that keep all the power. Yeah. That's what they're acting like. So in a weird way, Walter's house may end up being the best group of people because they just actually act like human. Now, admittedly, we are seeing glimpses of what looks like the apocalypse in their house, and we've been seeing that since issue 1. So it doesn't seem like things are going to go amazingly. But I'm just in theory,
this is still a horror book, right?
But maybe the decision's not been made by that point yet though. Maybe like the ultimate decision's not happened in that future timeline yet. So like I just think that's interesting that Walter's team, like he's picked out of friendship, might actually be the one that proves to be the best group of people because they're not trying to kill each other.
No, because they know what interpersonal relationships are. All these other people are seemingly separate. They have zero issue, right? We saw what happened when somebody died by accident in the other house, by the house by the lake, and how it affected all of them. Here, they're torturing somebody, and it just seems like there's this lack of compassion because, well, he knew about this but didn't say anything. He's plotting against it. It's very much us versus them, you know. And I feel like that difference between them is kind of the crux of the book.
And it makes it so easy to root for our main house by and large. There's no characters in the other house that might be sympathetic that we end up rooting for, but it makes it so easy to root for the main group of characters. I also really like that when Nora's ranting about the backstory and stuff to the sky, hoping that Walter's hearing, she kind of talks about how every time she was like made aware of who he was, who Walter was, and who what was going to happen, she always declined to be a part of it. But it was after Max like left and stopped being interested in her that was kind of like, it was after that when Walter said, hey, I'm telling you all this again, are you in? And that's when Nora, like the mind started changing, where the sadness of that loss of that relationship is what kind of made it so that she could accept what was being asked, and got involved with designing the house and all that.
Kind of like the ante got upped when there was no more relationship. It's like, well, if the world's going to burn down, how can I best, how can I best help, and preserve something, almost like, we were talking about sorrow earlier, kind of that same kind of feeling.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just a case of someone being at their worst and like just the idea that someone's trusting them with this task is going to make a person feel needed and feel like they're important when they feel at their worst. Just, I think is part of why it's so appealing. But as I said earlier, the dog runs off and goes to like a room that's all bathed in red art. I mean, whether it's red lighting or not, I mean, it's debatable, I guess. Right. But Walter's clearly reading transcripts of whatever's been said, because you see at the end of what Nora said on this printout. And he does seem sad. And he goes to like a bar and wherever this place is that he is, and he just sort of cries at the bar top. There's no one else there. He's on his own. But
I think that's the bar from the first issue.
Oh, sure,
So also, are we sure that Walter's just not the dog? Because we never see them on the page together, right? And when he goes to the room and he goes up to the boxes, there's that warp distortion of the dog, and now Walter's standing there. So that's how I've been reading it. Have you not been reading it that way?
Wait, what?
That Walter's the dog?
Oh yeah, we've been saying that since.
Okay. Well, because you just said the dog goes to Walter. That's why I was like, did I miss something?
Oh sure. I mean, I think I was just because I hadn't really thought about it. But you're right. Yeah, the dog transforms into Walter. Yeah. Okay. I just meant you follow the dog and then Walter's there.
Yeah. Okay. I'm like, dude, because I've missed things.
My brain just skipped a bit. But you're right. Yeah, we've been saying the dog is Walter since the dog first appeared. And did the bushy face thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, super interesting. House by the Sea is plotting. I particularly like that moment in the art when the actress looks back as the room's reforming.
Yeah.
Into the prison that they're keeping him in, and just that look of kind of hesitation of like, oh, this is awful. What are we doing to this guy?
Yeah.
And Oliver's just left like on the floor, just in a ball, just weeping, saying, "Oh God." Super super dark. So you go to the final scene and you think, oh, is this them breaching over into the nice house by the lake? And because there's a storm, and like the character who like does this stuff at their house is like, wait, I didn't do anything. Why is this happening? And then you think, oh, this is them coming over, but it's not. It's Max, and Max says, we best have a little talk. So Max is now aware of this house and the stuff is going on. So it's a good cliffhanger. Yeah, but given everything they've set up, this is a fantastic cliffhanger.
It's a really good cliffhanger.
Yeah, because we've never met Max really one-to-one, like as a reader. You know, we've only...
No, just the very that Max presents is very clinical. Yes. In a way that, whereas Walter seems to be very emotional and sentimental. So I don't know how this is going to go. Is this good or bad? You know, it feels very much like when Gozer shows up at the end of Ghostbusters, which was very bad. So, curious to see.
It's an interesting thing to compare it to. But yes, probably bad. I don't know, it kind of depends. Is Max being competitive and wants her house to win, or is she going to feel sad that Walter's gone? Is that even possible, given how much like unhuman they seem to be? To begin with, I don't know, but no, and obviously the art is gorgeous. Like I say, that red bathed room that Walter's in is really well done. The storm's really good, and then the downright Hellraiser-esque shit that the torture is happening to Oliver with the other house. Because even just that idea that they can manipulate reality, where they can just take away his limbs while they're torturing him, because someone can control everything like a god. It's just such a smart idea.
Yeah. Well, and there's a bunch of little artistic forces too, right? So we get all that stuff, right? And that looks all ghastly and whatnot. But then when we get to the dog and it's going through the other house, you follow the paw prints through the panels, which I think is a lot of fun. But then when we get to Nora, in their mind, like everything that we would think is beautiful, this landscape in between, it almost looks like a bunch of cross-hatched inks, and it looks like just a mess. And I don't know if that's supposed to represent like their mental state in all of this. Because then when they climb to the mountain, you know, everything comes into view, right? And everything has the blues, and they're sitting up there with the sky and everything. Everything is more fully formed. So I think that's another fun little stylistic shift to kind of put you in the headspace of these characters.
Yeah. All right. What are you rating Nice House by the Sea?
I'm giving this an 8.5.
I gotta go at least a 9 on this. This is just phenomenal. Great ideas, great building up the backstory, good cliffhanger. Art was fantastic. I mean, it's hard to find much of a fault, to be honest. 9.5. Fantastic. Yeah. All right. So every month on patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, you can make me read a book at one of the higher tiers. Today I'm talking about Batman and the Outsiders issue 21. So this is kind of a weird issue, actually, because it says it's a special issue. I suspect this was more about giving the regular artists the time to catch a breath, because it specifically says on like the first page with all the credits and stuff that next issue we'll be back to the truth about Halo in part 3 of that. I'm like, okay, that's cool. I'm looking forward to that. I've been really into that story. What's this issue? This issue is a little anthology of 3 short stories. One about Katana, one about Geoforce, one about Black Lightning. There's a fun little bit in the credits page where Halo's saying to Metamorpho, wait, why don't we get stories in this issue? And Metamorpho's like, oh, don't worry, there's only 23 pages. We've been promised stories in the next special issue. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of cute. But fundamentally, it does make it feel like it's kind of like an annual. It's not really. I mean, it's only the same size as a regular issue, but it has that feeling to it where nothing here is that important. It's kind of a fluff filler issue. So get that out of the way. It means it's inherently less exciting than any issue otherwise that I've read of this book so far. Yeah. But you know, we'll dive in and see what they're like. So the first one has got a gimmick. Right, so this is the Katana story, and the basic gist of the story is that Katana goes and gets this like Japanese like artifact that's going into a museum, and she takes it, and she swaps out the actual thing with like a brick in a bag that's been in like a transport van because this gang tries to steal it, and they're like, "Oh, it's only a brick," and then they figure out that she has it, and they go and try and get it from her, and they end up, she ends up getting it to the museum, and all is well. That's the whole story. I just recapped the whole thing. The gimmick of this, though, is that there's barely any dialogue. There's no narration. What is here, though, is the running commentary of the American football game that's going on right now between Metropolis and Gotham, and how the commentary for the sports game kind of mirrors what's happening with Katana in the plot. So, for example, at the very end of the story, she has to throw the artifact to the museum curator, and it's like a touchdown throw or whatever, or pass. Right? So everything kind of mirrors what the commentary's doing. So it's the Gotham Goliaths versus the Metropolis Meteors.
Meteors are also a baseball team, though. So I guess that's commentary. They're being two giants and whatever. But yes.
But they just really wanted the alliteration. You know what to be fair.
Yeah. Sport teams want that,
So yeah. So this is. I mean, that's basically it. I don't really have much to add onto it. It was.
So there's no dialogue from Katana and them. Everything's done with the sports.
Yes, I'm just scrolling through it to just double check, but I don't even think there's a single speech bubble of like any character.
Because according to the wiki, it's called Silent Treatment is the main story. Is the title.
Do I? Oh, yeah, you're right. It is. Yeah, it's on that first page where all three have titles. Yeah.
And I'm very excited for the next one, and I'll when we get there.
Oh sure. I'm excited for the Halo next chapter. Yeah, I mean, this was fine.
I'm talking about the next story. In this 3. Yes.
Oh, okay.
For the title alone.
Oh yeah, for Jaws 4 Gotham Zero.
Yes.
Yes. Which I guess when this came out, Jaws 4 hadn't happened yet, so that's why the joke is Jaws 4. When in my head I'm like, it should be Jaws 5 because Jaws 4 exists.
Yes, but originally Joe Dante was supposed to direct Jaws 3, and it was supposed to be called Jaws 3 People Zero.
Ah, very good. That's a great reference. Man, that would have been such a better movie if Joe Dante.
100%. It was going to be like super, like it was going to be more like Airplane, where it was going to be a lot of gags about how fake the shark looks, but they were going to have Joe Dante do some super grisly kind of effects.
Instead, they made a super boring movie, and the only interesting thing about it now in 2025 is that the new 4K version of it was done using AI, so some of the extras in the background look like monsters. It's really that's a bummer. Yeah, like there's like people in the background at certain points look like their faces are deformed because the AI basically tried to take people who are out of focus and put them in focus, and it just looks horrific.
I thought you were going to say the most interesting thing is that Dennis Quaid says he doesn't remember it because he was so high on cocaine. But
no, that's not that interesting. No, wow. No, the brother of Randy Quaid is not that interesting.
The father of Jack Quaid.
The father of Jack Quaid too, yeah. But when I bring up Jack Quaid, though, I say, oh, that's Randy Quaid's nephew, because I think that's funnier. It's the same when I bring up Bryce Dallas Howard. I say that's Clint Howard's niece.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, Uncle Clint. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know if I've got much more to add. I mean, it's a fun gimmick. I mean, it's entertaining enough. That said, though, for a story that has no dialogue or narration, it's actually surprisingly wordy because of the sports commentary being so dense, to the point where I think there were some bubbles where I'm just going to kind of skim what it's saying here because it doesn't matter. I'm following the story regardless, but yeah, it is what it is. The second story, like I said, is Jaws 4 Gotham Zero. That is the Geoforce story, and he's basically at the same type of facility that's in Jaws 3, which is this kind of aquarium with the big sort of ringed hallways, and he's there. He ends up chatting up this reporter who's doing like a puff piece on the place, and he's happy to talk to her. But while he's there, a disgruntled employee, right, someone who was tasked with building a robot shark, Some of his times with building a robot shark to match the mascot of the aquarium, who's this like friendly blue shark. The boss is pissed because the shark he built looks kind of scary. Looks like something that Dracula would have nightmares about, was the exact line of dialogue. And fires him effectively. But this guy is not happy about this, so he goes to his control booth and wakes up his shark and starts like killing people with these robot shark. I mean, I don't think you ever see it kill anyone necessarily, but it breaks out of the water or the tank and starts going after people, causing chaos. So Geoforce suits up, of course, and starts flying around and saving people. There is a really fun panel where the reporter is bending down to get her camera, or kneeling down to get her camera, and the shark's coming up behind her and she's in silhouette. It's a really cool little panel.
Yeah.
But, this is the thing though, all these stories are only 8 pages each, right? There's not a lot of time to do anything meaningful with any of them. So, a big blue and white striped shark is going after people because a disgruntled employee wants to get back at his employer. I mean, that's kind of all you need to know, really. At the end, Geoforce, shows back up in his civvies, pretending that he's found the woman's camera, and she's very happy that, her camera was found, because this is a big story all of a sudden, because this shark thing happened. And he's like, how about you tell me more about it over dinner? And that's the end. Not a lot to say. This is probably going to be one of the quickest issues of this that I've done, because I don't really have much to say about any of these stories. The third story is a Black Lightning story, where a villain called Ghetto Blaster is firing his sonic shockwaves at buildings and bringing them down. I think this one, what's so weird about this story is that it does that trope where it starts in the middle, and then Black Lightning says, oh, I bet you're wondering how I got here, and then starts narrating the story so far, and that's what the next half of the story is the backstory to all this, where he came to this neighborhood to find a kid who was skipping class and said, why are you not in school? And he's like, I don't need school. I've got people like Ghetto Blaster to look up to. And Ghetto Blaster's demolishing buildings with his powers, so he suits up as Black Lightning, tries to confront him. Kind of gets beat. Ghetto Blaster kind of fires his powers at him and is able to kind of win. And Black Lightning kind of, catches up and basically has figured things out between panels, what's going on here. It turns out this guy that's Ghetto Blaster, who is becoming a bit of a role model for a lot of the kids in this neighborhood, was actually someone who was in prison. And the only reason why he's going around taking down these slums, because that's the thing, he keeps saying that he's doing this for a good reason. He's saying, no, I'm taking down these horrible slums that are rat infested so we can build proper houses. But the reason why he's actually doing it is because he was a bank robber and he stashed money in one of these buildings, but because he got a concussion in prison, he can't remember which building had the money in it, so he's just going around demolishing all these buildings, and then revealing this, Black Lightning does, convinces the teenager to come back to school and hand in his homework. It's fine. I think the big problem for me is that the decision to try and restructure it when you've only got 8 pages of story in the first place. I'm just tell it straightforward. Why are we doing this starting in the fight?
Yeah.
It's only 8 pages long. They don't have to wait that long to get to the action anyway. Right? It'd be 1 page later. If anything, it'd be 1 page earlier because you wouldn't have the page at the start doing the tease of what's to come later. So I'm not sure why they did that. And it's this idea of a teacher going to track down a kid who's not showing up to class. That's something teachers do. I mean, maybe superheroes who are teachers do it, but I get the spirit of it. It's a nice idea, and I do like the idea of Black Lightning recognizing kids, in this poor neighborhood are looking up to a criminal and think he's cool and think they want to be like him and don't need school, so he tries to show them otherwise. I like the idea behind that. I just think that 8 pages isn't enough of a story to really flesh it out to actually do anything with it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, ultimately this was just kind of a fluffy issue where it's just 3 short stories. The shark story was mildly amusing. The katana story had a bit of a gimmick. The story in the Black Lightning one ended up being a lot more convoluted for something that's only 8 pages long, but, I came out of this just hoping or excited to get to the next story or the next issue because, hey, we're back to the the main narrative, and I've been enjoying the main narrative. The Truth About Halo's been a really cool arc. Actually learn about what went on with her. So, yeah. So this is like a 6 out of 10. It's fine. It's not a bad comic, but it's the sort of thing where if this was an annual, I'd say definitely skip it. But because it's issue 21, just get through it. Read it, and we can get to the next one. So
can't wait to hear what Metamorpho story in the next one is.
Metamorpho?
Like,
the next anthology, you mean?
Yeah, the anthology.
Yeah. If they ever actually do it, they may not.
Yeah.
They might not. They may have just said that to keep the fictional characters happy, and then we'll never get around to their anthology special.
That's funny.
So yeah, 6 out of 10. Probably the least interesting issue of the entire book. But to be fair, there's been 20 solid to great issues up until this point, so it's not exactly a big deal. But hey, all right. That'll take us out the final part of the show where we pick our favorite stuff of the week, favorite panel / moment, favorite cover, favorite art, and of course top 5 books. Matt, what is your panel / moment of the week?
Okay, so this week had a couple of some really good ones. From Nice House by the Sea, I really love the entire 2-page layout of the dog with the footprints going through, with the comedian talking about that everyone loves tennis balls. That was a nice light moment to recover from the, as you called it, Hellraiser-esque torture scene. Also in Nightwing, the appearance of Zani and being like, not everyone can see him, even when he wants him to. That was super cool. But again, I'm a self-parody at this point. And to me, nothing this week beat in the New Gods the appearance of Big Barda. Just her holding the baby, her with her name behind her in this big, impact font of a panel. It's really, really fun moment.
Yeah, hard to fault that pick, really. Yeah, what am I going for? Yeah, the Barda moment's really good. Nice House by the Sea. I mean, the cliffhanger was great for sure. It's hard to not maybe want to pick that. I think I'm probably picking the same thing you are, but it's I want to at least explore a few other options.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I mean, I really thought you were gonna go with the Guy Gardner. I'm not an idiot.
Nah, because that was funny on a personal level, but the Barda moment was just a great page. It was like a great payoff to the build up. So it's hard to fault it. All right, cover of the week. I was kind of looking as you were talking there. Obviously, there's a few nice ones. Nice House by the Sea usually has some good covers, and it does. Main cover for the variant for Nightwing, which is the Dan Panosian one, was kind of cool. It's Dick jumping over the train car, but the blue of the light inside the train and then all the blues really pops, which is quite nice. My pick though is probably just the main cover for Batman and Robin Year One. It's just a nice simple, Batman and Robin standing in front of the bat signal, but it's the it's the Samnee art. It just looks simple, clean, really nice.
Yeah.
What are you picking?
All right, so I wanted to. You heard about that Panosian Nightwing one that I was going to. Green Lantern Fractured Spectrum has a Steven Segovia variant that I like. It has all of the GLs, all the Green Lanterns on it. And I just like what it does with the color gradient from green down to purple down at the bottom. I think it looks nice. But my pick for the week is also from Batman and Robin Year One, but it is the Danny Earls variant, and it has like this Batman the Animated Series-esque look at Gotham with the airships and the spotlights, right? But on the Gotham Gazette building, it has the silhouettes of Batman and Robin up against the spotlight, and it hits some nostalgia pings for the animated series, and it's this really busy yet simple cover, and I like it a lot.
Cool. All right. Art of the week.
All right. This came down to two for me, and it's either going to be Batman and Robin Year One or Nice House by the Sea. That said, I like a lot more of the color play in Batman and Robin, so that's going to be my pick.
Yeah, I think it's probably between those for me as well. Saw he was very good on Nightwing. There's definitely some other good art this week, but I think it is between them. I think I'm also going with Samnee, just by a hair, but maybe it's just because Samnee feels a bit more special because we don't. I mean, obviously we didn't really get much Bueno between by the lake and by the sea, but he got it a lot throughout those books coming out. So I'm happy to give it to Samnee for today. But cool. All right, top 5 books, Matt. Go.
All right. So, and of course, I clicked away the page to see what's going next because I'm a professional. Excuse me. So, number 1 is going to be The New Gods. 2 is Batman and Robin Year 1. 3 is Nice House by the Sea. 4 is Green Lantern Fractured Spectrum. And 5 is Nightwing. Jeez, I'm dying over here.
Yeah, my number 1 is Nice House by the Sea. Number 2 is Batman and Robin Year 1. 3 is The New Gods. 4 is Nightwing. And 5 is Green Lantern Fractured Spectrum.
Same 5, just in a different order.
Different order, but yeah, similar list. All right. Well, I'll tell you what's coming next week from DC Comics, everyone. We have Detective Comics 1093, Absolute Wonder Woman issue 4, Superman 22, Justice League Unlimited issue 3, Wonder Woman 17. We got Wonder Woman and Absolute Wonder Woman. That's a weird week. We got Green Arrow 20, The Flash 17, Catwoman 72, Harley Quinn 47, Black Canary Best of the Best issue 3, Power Girl 17, Metamorpho The Element Man issue 2. I did want to read this. I was trying to remember if I wanted to read this next issue of that or not.
Yes.
And then DC Horror Presents issue 4, Wayne Family Adventures 148, Little Batman month 1 issue 3, month 1, that's quite funny. And then just a bunch of reprints and facsimile editions from there. So that is what's coming next week. So what have I got? 6. I've got 7 next. That's not too bad. And then I've got a Patreon book to tack on it that as well. So yeah, not bad, not bad. So that's what's coming next week from DC Comics. And that brings an end to the show. So thank you very much for joining us, everyone. This has been Comics from the Multiverse, episode 342, I think. That sounds right. 432? I win 400s?
I think that's what you said.
That sounds right.
Yeah, I thought you said 432 at the beginning, but I wasn't really paying attention.
I should know if we are in the 400s. Okay.
Yeah.
I should know that off the top of my head. When you're this high in the numbers.
It's been a day.
Like, what? It's 340, 440. I mean, what matters at this point? That is the show, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. You can support the show over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. But of course, you can also support it for free by liking, subscribing, sharing it out, all the usual things. But that is us. So thank you once again for joining. We do appreciate it. Keep reading DC Comics. And remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.